Today's sponsor is Loot Crate. For less than $20 a month, Loot Crate gives the geek in you a special treat every month. Loot Crate's a subscription box service with over $40 worth of geek, gamer, and pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. This month's theme is time, and quite appropriately, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future, in the month and year Marty McFly travels to in Back to the Future Part 2, the timeless appeal of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and the timey-wimey charm of Doctor Who. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on your new subscription today. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 39 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Hi.
It's good to be here. You think if is this connected to something?
Yeah. Probably. Probably one of the 10 PS4s in this house.
It's on.
Yeah, so
Is
turn
your,
one,
is
turn
your
one
console on?
Yeah.
All right.
They were in rest mode. Nick, put it back in rest mode, Nick.
Oh wait, no, it's
Lord.
off now.
This is a disaster. They say, wow, what's going on? I don't
Yeah, I don't think there's much
understand
juice
this.
in that one.
So you might know these gentlemen from this little show called P.S. I Love You, XOXO. It's a brand new PlayStation podcast over here on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and all the podcast services you could ever dream of. iTunes, Stitcher, Beyond Pod, whatever. There's all these other ones that people use.
Some people were showing me screenshots of it today in the timeline. We launched it.
Mm-hmm.
Today, people were putting up screenshots of us #1 on charts for apps I've never even seen before.
So that's cool.
I don't know how there's this many podcasting apps.
But I'm happy that people are,
Dude, we're thrilled.
consuming the content wherever they're consuming it.
Couldn't be happier with the reception that thing's got.
So
today.
before we get into the whole rigmarole of the Kind of Funny Gamescast, I did want to talk about P.S. I Love You and Gamescast for a second.
And the blood feud.
The blood feud, yes. But one, if you haven't already, go download it, like it, subscribe, comment, review, do whatever the hell. Like whatever the option is or whatever system you're doing, just do that. Help us in
Give
whatever.
it a
that for
random
this show,
Give
too.
it a random score.
Yes, and do that for this show as well, because that would be really, really nice. But a lot of people are like, are you guys getting rid of Gamescast because you're doing P.S. I Love You? And I know we've addressed this a million times, but mainly we're addressing it on P.S. I Love You. This is the first Gamescast post P.S. I Love You launching.
Okay.
And
I'm with you so far.
yeah. So
But
no, we're not stopping the show.
Yeah, we talked about this last
Did
week.
we?
Yeah.
I don't know. We've been talking about it a lot of places. I don't even remember.
But no,
what is
welcome
new
to
now?
Colonized Life, where we're like, did we talk about this on Colin and Greg Live? Game Over, Greggy.
I'm like, I've said this at some point somewhere.
So a lot of this is a big problem, is the fact that we repeat ourselves a lot, and we're trying to not do that. And I guess we're not off to the best start. But this is different because we're not talking about game stuff. We're talking about our own shit.
Semantics.
Yes. So on the Kind of Funny forums, in the Gamescast sub forum, I posted a post that's pretty much how to make Gamescast better.
Right.
So a lot of people gave a lot of really great feedback. I wrote a really long thing with ideas I have to kind of differentiate it a little bit from PS I Love You going forward or whatever. If you guys have ideas, please go. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you like about the show, what you don't like. The one thing I need people to keep in mind is the fact that the format of the show cannot change. So it needs to be topic by topic. Oh, here's the rigmarole. I can just kind of put it in there. This is the Kind of Funny Gamescast where we talk about video games, topic by topic, day by day, Monday through Thursday on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. You get the YouTube breakouts. Then Friday, you get the full episode and the full thing over on all the podcast services, soundcloud.com/kindoffunnygames, all that good stuff. If you want it early, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Get whatever you want early. The video, the audio, whole bunch of different stuffs there.
Colin's phone number.
Yeah, it's a hidden tier, but it's there.
It is a hidden
you
tier.
look
You can
really
figure out
hard.
the exact sum.
I was going to say, you have to hit it by the exact dollars and cents.
Yeah.
That's the hard part for it.
And then you get it. So that'll be pretty cool. But
We should do
that
that.
format cannot change. And because of that format, that means that this show will never be timely. And we're never going to be talking about news as it happens and this and that and whatever. That's why PS I Love You is so awesome, is the fact that this is finally something where you guys are going to be able to talk about PlayStation news literally the night before it goes live. You guys are recording.
Right.
It's going to be great. We have
Figure-
Colin and Greg live in the morning.
Exactly. You start small. Colin and Greg Live is the one that's giving you the microscopic detail. You go a little bit larger. P.S. I Love You, which is talking about the week in PlayStation.
Yeah.
And the Kind of Funny Gamescast is talking about the biggest ideas in games.
So really, it's more of an identity problem of why are we doing so many different things when really it's just the same group of people talking about games and whatever. And like, okay, Tim's here, Tim's not here. What's the difference? This show specifically isn't so much going to be about news. It's going to be more about why we love video games and video games that we love. And I'm going to try to get more guests, and I want to have people. We've been doing recently a lot of why you need to play Lego Dimensions or why you need to play Mad Max or Until Dawn or whatever. And I kind of want to do a lot more topics like that are because we've kind of gotten away from doing more fully fledged reviews, even though we never really did a true review, but we did review discussions.
Sure.
And I think that using Gamescast to kind of, especially now that we're in the leading into the holiday season,
Right.
I think we'll be able to kind of get our passions out there a little bit and like kind of just discuss the games and what we like about them, what we don't like about them. And by having people like Alfredo on to talk a bit more about first-person shooters, having some GameSpot friends, IGN friends, whoever the hell wants to come on the show, to kind of pitch their games and kind of sell it to us and to the audience and the best friends and everything. So the show it always has been this, but I think now it's more the direction where before I used to say it's Game Over Greggy's show, but for video games, it never really has been that. It's just been formatted that way.
Right.
So I think now it's just more like it's a show about why we love video games. That's really it.
But could it also be a show about why we hate video games?
Yes. Our issues with video games.
Because I hate video games. I don't know.
I
if you know
noticed.
Yeah, no, we know, and it's a thing. I do too. Things happen,
Mm.
but
I know you've been busy, but I've now made my prediction that I can't fucking wait for Colin to hate the Division. Because it's going to be the sweetest berries off the bush. Just
Why do you say that? Why do you?
Because you're holding on to this dream, this goddamn cloud that this multiplayer game is going to have a single player mode that's just for you, antisocial Andy.
But why do you find such pleasure?
Because
and
I don't get out in front enough and predict what Colin's about to do. I usually
is a
know
Greg
what
was right
Colin's going to do, but I don't predict
How do you
it.
know so well?
Because I know you, just like your fucking Skyrim shit the other day. I stopped playing on a pro. Well, you stopped 3 weeks before the problem ever reared its head.
Yeah,
I love you
someone
guys.
said in the comments like, I love it when Greg calls Colin out on his shit, and I'm like, welcome back to PlayStation Podcast land, motherfuckers. You called me out twice that podcast too because I was talking about how we still play PSP. Which I have, but in reality we have.
Like,
But I was talking about
situation
PSP
calls.
games. But I was talking about
I know what
PSP
you're talking about.
games.
The Vita. I know what you're talking
I
about.
haven't played the PSP since Let Us Cling Together came out,
Wow.
which was 4 years ago. I think I played at GDC and then I broke my PSP,
Oh no,
and that was the end of that.
that is sad.
Should we talk about things that are relevant? So
Maybe,
I can't.
I don't know.
Topic starts at 13:30. We're gonna
Yeah,
have one of those.
no, that'll
comments
be
on.
Yeah, those people we're slowly weeding out. The ones who want the headline and thumbnail.
Shut
that
the
fuck
get
up.
the way you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, go to the Kind of Funny forums, find the topic, and please give me your feedback again of what you like and what you don't like, and guests that you'd like to see, and all that stuff. Because yeah, I definitely want to start gearing it more towards us talking about why you should play games. It could be old games too. Like I was thinking it'd be cool to kind of like try to sell each other on why we should play old games.
Sure.
And but yeah, it will also be about broader topics, whether we like them or dislike them, about news, where it's a more opinion based and just like here's our thoughts on this or whatever. Like later on today, one of the topics is going to be how we know a game's going to be bad before it even comes out, and that's just a purely, opinion thing.
Sure.
So,
I think that we should also do a topic about the games we've protested, like I protested Skyrim on PlayStation 3.
Sure, okay.
In the fall of 2011, which you remember well.
I'm like one day I'm gonna get
Or was it
bonked on the
2012?
head and go into a coma, and I'll wake up and I'll wake up and look outside with all these Colin statues because no one was here to keep him in check. Somehow he's now in control.
so this Gamescast is sponsored by Volume for the final time.
Oh no,
This is
Mike
the-
Bithell.
This is the final Volume sponsorship.
2 months in a
2
row of
months.
support for us. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Mike
much, Volume.
Bithell.
So if you haven't already, please go tweet at Volume Game. Tell Mike Bithell, the amazing man that created Thomas Was Alone and now Volume,
My dude.
how much you're enjoying his game, or if you haven't enjoyed it yet, go enjoy it. It's available now, PlayStation 4, coming eventually.
You
to
buy it on
PlayStation
PS4,
Vita.
it'll eventually be on Vita.
Yeah.
We're
When, though?
waiting.
Who knows?
And so it's going to be good. So for more information, follow at Volume Game on Twitter. Tell them I love them.
Well,
That'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's been 2 months.
this has been a serious
Jesus.
2-month long relationship.
Yeah. So the first topic of the day is a classic. So one thing that people said that they want is segments. And it's hard to segment
The whole
a
show's a
topical.
segment.
I know, right? But it's
whole
hard
life's a
to have segments out of it's just how the topical nature of the show is. But one thing that we have done a recurring segment is what are we playing now?
Ah, yes.
And people really, really enjoy this,
Mm.
and they like to know what we've been up to and what we've been playing. I personally have been playing more games in the last 2 months than I have the rest of the entire year. Because
Wow.
it's happening. It's finally at that point where it's like, these are the games I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the games I wanted are getting delayed, which is a good and bad thing. Star Fox Zero, please be okay.
Delay that back to
Here's my biggest
1998 where it
problem is
belongs.
I
all the
can't wait-
games
I
that I
can't-
want are just turning out to be garbage.
And that's why I can't wait to get the topic of how you know a bad game's coming. Because every time Tim opens his mouth about a game, he's excited for him. Like, that looks like a giant pile of crap.
Check the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sign number 1. Tim's excited about it.
I mean, that's so shitty, though. Like,
Yeah.
We'll get there. But it's like, it is very upsetting that a lot of the big games that I've waited for so long are just very upsetting me. But I'm still going to play it. I'm still going to try to see the good in all of them.
You sound definitely like a Nintendo fan.
I will see. But I'm not even just talking about Nintendo. That's just Star Fox. The rest of the Nintendo's lineup's fine. But
Yeah, give me that goddamn Mario Tennis. They see they announced the release date today?
oh, what is it?
November 20.
Oh.
You and I are going to the clay, as
Yeah.
they say.
Yeah, I bet.
By the
My
bay.
prediction was that we'll have
Ray.
Fallout 4 probably a little early. So let's say we have Fallout 4 first week of November. We have Mario. We'll probably get Mario early too. So let's say we have them both a week before they come out. You'll never play Mario Tennis.
I bet we get
No,
Mario. I get
we'll
Mario.
do.
I bet we get Mario Tennis before we get.
We
Fallout.
have to, because we already, there's a grudge match going.
Yeah.
I
Nintendo
destroyed
knows.
Greg Miller.
That's an
Destroyed
exaggeration.
him
That's an
in Mario
exaggeration.
Tennis.
Remember when Greg
Oh,
played
it wasn't even
Titanfall?
close.
I did for a month and a half, which is longer than you said I would. You can try to call me on my bullshit, but I'm ironclad. There's nothing you're gonna find.
Oh, you're ironclad,
no,
all right.
There's no skeletons in my closet.
No, definitely. We'll go there in the documentary. We'll find the skeleton.
Oh
in the
my
closet.
God.
They're covered in urine that I peed into a little cup and threw on them.
You're a sick fuck, Greg. You are a sick fuck. All right, so back to the video games. I have been playing a lot more. Star Fox is a ways off
Right.
now, but that's a good thing for me because I'm like, I need more time to be able to play all these games. So a couple weeks back when I've been playing Metal Gear, obviously.
Yes.
Everybody knows this. We've been playing the shit out of it. I had to put it on pause because games are starting to come out. And I'm like, fuck, I need to get on this.
You should probably turn it off because leaving it on pause for that long is
Yeah,
bad
you're
for your
right.
system.
It might be bad. So during one of the downloads, I downloaded one of the downloads of some Metal Gear thing that I had to wait forever
Sure,
for.
your patch.
I had PT on my system. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to play
Oh,
this because
wow.
I've never played it.
Wow.
Have you played it?
No.
It's excellent.
PT's awesome.
It is quite the experience. I'm very upset that I haven't experienced it before now.
Did you turn off the lights and sit
Oh
there
yeah,
in the dark?
it was me and my boy Curran.
Did you guys
We
get
were
naked?
sitting- Huh?
You guys get naked? I
We
heard
weren't
that. I
There's
heard
one
that you
part
gotta
to,
be naked.
to do it to get the true ending. You have to get naked.
I heard you have to put the
with
Yeah.
PS camera in the PS4 and be naked.
Yeah,
It
no,
has
I
to see
didn't
at least
do all
one
that.
dong,
Yeah.
or you don't get the real. And
The
it'll
dong's
know
out.
if you're using
That
a dildo.
ghost is thirsty.
But man, it's one of those things where I played through the whole thing. I got to the end and I couldn't figure out how to trigger the
Did you talk to the thing?
end
And
thing.
everything?
I was trying to do all the shit. I looked at walkthroughs and I'm like,
Yeah.
doing it, walking 10 steps, spinning around like a goddamn. It just wasn't working.
I hear you, I
So
hear
I
you.
just YouTubed the final
Sure.
video or whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. But my thing with that is like everyone's upset that we're never gonna get that game, like that Silent Hills game. I'm okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
that demo was a cool experience for me. I don't know how you'd make a game out of
It's
that.
one of
you
those.
know?
Well, it's like I don't think that would have been representative of the actual gameplay of Silent Hills. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's the thing. And, like when you have Norman Reedus, chances are you're going to use his face. You're going to make it third person, like the old Silent Hills, right? And have them do
Yeah.
things and run around. So I think that was just more of this is the tone we're going for kind of thing. And yeah, that's the bittersweet thing about it is that was by far the best horror game I've played in years, if not ever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Just in terms of enjoyment of me actually getting tense and my heart beating and like because something's going to happen, but it still doesn't get you like
Yeah.
that game got you. You know what I mean? And so, would it have lived up to that? I don't know, because like it's like a horror movie, right? The longer they go, the more it kind of unravels.
Yeah,
Whereas in
exactly.
that, like this bite-sized experience of like, what the hell is happening?
I mean, that's a really good way to put it. I thought it was really, really good because it didn't overstay its welcome and it kept you guessing what was going to happen. But the biggest thing is there was setups for some like really easy scares and they
Yeah,
didn't do 'em.
exactly. When you thought you knew exactly what it was going to do, it didn't do it.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh man, like that's the telltale sign of a good horror movie. And when
Yeah.
you adapt that to a game, and like I think that this was, this is one of those things where is it really a game or is it just like whatever? It's like there's definitely game elements in there.
Right.
And it's like a lot of it is just kind of like an interactive movie, but it was cool. Like I really, really enjoyed it, and I saw that there's a Kickstarter for some game that's similar. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, it's-
I don't see- I don't know what you're
It's
talking
like, oh man, I'm blanking on the name right now, but it looks really cool, and someone's making a game that takes place in a hallway and does. all that
about.
thing.
Gotcha.
So
It's called
Yeah.
TP.
it's no.
It's called hallway horror.
But it looks really cool, and but I'm excited because I want to do like a week or maybe more of horror game Let's Plays in
Yeah.
October for
That's a good one.
Halloween.
Get that.
and
Get Soma.
yeah, and Fatal Frame 2.
Amy.
Scared the shit out of me.
Oh, yes, Amy's scary for a number of reasons.
And
lowest rating
I want
ever.
to play with Nick because he's never played, and I think
and he's a coward.
he'll scare the shit out of him.
You should do RE4.
How come you've never played it? That surprises me.
I don't know. I don't care about Silent Hill. So it's just I think the last Silent Hill game I ever really played all the way through was Silent Hill 2, which was 15 years ago. So, and I played Silent Hills, of course, Book of Memories, the classic PS Vita game.
And remember how
that
we were
was
like,
really?
But remember we were like, it's close. It's almost great. It's almost a good game. Like
Yeah.
it's close enough. It's something to
It
play
had cool
on Vita.
RPG elements and stuff like that. But it was just
As close as we're ever gonna get to a Diablo or whatever on a thing because they got
rid
Warriors
of
Lair.
Ruin Warriors Lair, same game.
Yeah, we should buy that and just publish it because it's close enough.
We played it, man. It was
I know.
done. At least the vertical slice we played.
Yeah.
That was done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been
else you playing?
playing Mario Maker still.
Of course.
Like I'm in this thing now where I keep just switching games. Like I'll be playing a couple hours of games
I
a
hate
night,
that. I can't do that.
and it's just like I'll play like 2 hours of this, 2
Right.
hours of this, 2 hours
Right.
of this. And Mario Maker still has me. Like I still haven't beat all of the Nintendo made levels.
How many are there?
I think there's only 100.
Okay.
Maybe there's 60. I don't know. But I'll do a little dent in that, and then I'll download a couple of. I keep getting distracted by
Of course.
the levels you can download.
Of course.
But man, that game is just awesome, and I just love that it'll always just be there.
Yeah.
I can always just come back whenever I need to.
It'll be better.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been a lot of fun, and then I'm missing out on some stuff here. But the two big ones, obviously Uncharted,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. That's a whole topic in itself.
Uncharted
Coming up
Collection.
next. Yes. And then yeah, I got to we played a little NBA 2K16.
Which was interesting.
Yes.
You asked me about getting this game, getting it in because you want to do stuff. You
Yeah.
got bit by the NBA bug.
Mhm.
'Cause
Well,
it's
so-
a Spike Lee joint.
It is a Spike Lee joint.
That's
yeah.
why I want to play it. I was like, well, crap. I that's the one thing I want to play about it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I mean, we talk about this all the time. How we had talked at the GameStop Expo about it. The fact that 2K is they're on top of the world. So why do they keep trying? But then they go and they do this thing, right? Where it's been originally Jordan, then it was multiple legends. Now they're bringing in this Spike Lee directed story. Like, I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know anything about the NBA right now, but I want to play this.
It's
Spike
super
Lee.
interesting watching them just. It reminds me of what the Patriots do to their opponents in the football, where
Like cheat,
they
though.
run the score up.
Oh, okay.
Weren't we talking this past weekend? Wasn't it with you or it was with Cheryl? Someone where it's like there are teams that stop, right?
Yeah.
Like there are teams that stop trying to score. They'll just run the ball right up the middle and just run the clock out,
Right,
and then punt the ball. The Patriots will run the score up as much as they can.
Pad those stats.
Like they scored like over 50 points against the Jaguars, like totally unnecessary amount of points to
Yeah.
win a football game. And it reminds me of what NBA does or 2K does to EA because it just gets worse and worse for them for EA.
Yeah.
With like you were telling me, and I went and looked like the NBA Live 16 glitch reels or whatever
Have
are
you
the
seen these?
fucking
Yeah.
funniest things I've ever seen.
Shooting the free throw and you turn around and shoot it across.
Like how
the
could
court.
it be so? How could one game be so good, one series be so good, and it is, it's immaculate, and the other series be so bad? Even after years of trying, and even after taking time off, and even after making a game, as we talked about, and not even releasing it. That was the funniest thing. I
Yeah.
think it was NBA Live 12 or maybe 11, where they
was it called NBA Elite?
or yeah, it might have been when we got it.
Yeah.
Like the game
Here's your
existed,
review
and they
embargo.
just never released the game because the mock reviews were probably so devastating that they
Yeah.
were like, it's
Let's just not.
yeah, like it's gonna kill this franchise. But what it's just so funny. Like every year, because I don't play these games really. I'll mess around with NBA 2K or whatever, once in a blue moon. Like when PS4 came out, we
Yeah,
fucked
yeah.
around with it. But I don't understand how they keep fucking it up. Like how the disparity doesn't only exist and persist but grow after like time and time again. It's like a great testament to 2K. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to throw that out there because
No,
I
I-
really,
I mean,
I
that's-
really feel
interrupted
like
Tim,
they're
and then we
on
just kept
top
going.
of their game. Like the NBA, a lot of people, NBA 2K is the best sports series
Yeah.
by far, and that really says a lot because NHL is really great, Madden's great, FIFA's great, etc. All these EA games, and I think it might have been on the Kind of Funny forums or maybe it was on the Facebook group. Someone was saying like, why doesn't NBA 2K get considered for Game of the Year? Like when Game of the Year comes around, 'cause it's so good.
I think the problem is the fact that it's so up one person's alley.
Yeah.
It's literally what I think speaks volumes about NBA 2K whatever this year's 16 is the fact that I'm not an NBA fan and this game always finds a way to make me interested. When it was Jordan, I was like, well, yeah, I gotta play that.
Yeah.
And then it was more Legends next year. I was like, I don't need to. No, I'll try it. And then this one, it's like Spike Lee directed it. Yeah, okay. Sure, I'm gonna be terrible at the gameplay. I'll
But
probably
at
dial
least
the
there's like
difficulty down.
they're doing something cool and
Yeah,
different.
yeah. So anyway,
that's
sorry.
fun.
You
Well,
played it. How is it?
Yeah, so my thing with it, so Alfredo is huge into the NBA 2K series, and like there's obviously a very large group of people that are in love with this franchise. And the thing that like from talking to him about it is every year they do something so radically different, and they just keep changing things up.
Yeah.
So that it is consistently good, and there is always something new. So it isn't just this year's sports game over and over. I mean, at its core, it's basketball, right?
But even then, it's like you make once you perfect the engine, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's funny because I obviously am not a sports guy at all, but sports are games at their purest form.
Yeah.
So it's just like they translate to video games well. I remember basketball games were kind of the standard. It was it was a genre. Like I remember it's like, oh, I want a racing. When I was a little kid, I was like, I want a racing game. I want a basketball game. I want this because it was just that made sense. I understood it, right? And I was huge into the more arcadey stuff. So NBA Jam and specifically NBA Street. But those are pick up and play. You know what you're doing and whatever. I'd mess around a little bit with the lives back when lives were good and 2K in its early days, but I never really got serious into it because I don't really care too much about sports. But haven't played one for a long time, and I was like, oh, I'll just pick this up and see how it plays. Now, first observations, having not seen a game, like an NBA game for probably a couple years, it's like, good Lord.
Beautiful, right?
Beautiful.
Whenever McCaffrey was reviewing these, I'd walk by. You do that double take.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, there's some buttons on the screen.
Exactly.
Not just watching TV.
That's the craziest thing is we say that and it's funny because I'm sure we've said that 3 years ago and we said it 6 years ago. And we said it
the
9
first time
years
I saw
ago.
Sonic the Hedgehog. I was like, is that a real hedgehog?
Oh my God, that's what the real hedgehog looks like.
Where do you get those shoes? Is that what the question is?
But it's
why does he want these rings so bad?
It's crazy that as we grow as gamers, graphics just keep getting better, and we consistently oh my God, that looks like TV. But it's getting to the point now where it's like, damn. And I even said this to you when we were in Vegas watching, I think it was basketball or maybe it was football, but I was like, that real football game looks like a video game because it has so much heads-up display shit going on. It's like, this is ridiculous. And so yeah, the presentation is just on another level, and the commentators and even the crowds finally don't look just like a bunch of dudes just doing a wave over and over. Yeah,
100 different groups of 100 that are in a yellow shirt and a white shirt, and they're just all sporadically put up. They're all doing the same
animations over and over. Yeah, so the graphics on the presentation, it's not so much graphics. The presentation is it's just immaculate. Then I started playing it, and I'm like, it's basketball. I should totally understand this. I have not felt that lost in so long playing a video game, where I'm like, this is deep. This is so, so deep. I don't even understand what's going on. Yeah. But I was playing with my brother, and he got it. He totally played it. He loves basketball.
Slamming on you.
He just understands what all the different terms mean. I know basketball. There's 2 teams. You get in the hoop, 2 points, 3 points.
That was the thing when I was playing Colin in NHL, right? Mm-hmm. Of just sitting down and playing it. And I was like, oh man, I used to love playing these with Poe. And then you sit down I've been gone from this franchise for so long. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I also had to explain icing and offside to you, which was you used to turn those off. Probably.
Yeah, exactly, because they were bullshit rules that slowed down the game and weren't fun.
They keep you honest.
Yeah, they keep you honest.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know what they do.
So I was confused because I was like, man, am I really this dysfunctional that I can't just pick up and play a basketball game? And so I started reading about it a little bit, and supposedly they totally changed the control schemes from even last year, and it's totally fine tuned and stuff. And this is something that they do is that they just keep changing the control schemes to kind of make it better and better. And it's interesting to me how much of a challenge it must be to make a sports game feel fresh year after year without alienating the people that love one
they liked what you did last year.
Yeah, so it's oh, why are you getting rid of this? Why are you changing the controls? But then it's pretty unique because only sports games really have to do that, because other annualized games, over time you see changes. It's more of a generational thing. Like PS2 and Xbox and GameCube, when you played a racing game, you hold A or X to go. Now, the gen after that, PS3 and 360, it turned to the triggers,
Which is weird.
But then now that's standard.
Right.
You know what I mean? Shooting games kind of have similar things where over time it just totally changed. But with these sports games, it seems like it's more of every season there is something totally different with the controls that if you looked at 10 seasons ago and now, you can kind of see the jump. Yeah. But when you look at it more incrementally, it's a little weird. But I had fun playing it. I just don't get it. Steimer's in the other room playing Shovel Knight.
She's streaming. She's screaming.
But so did you play it at all?
No, I haven't had time.
Yeah, but it's definitely cool.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been playing this little game called Lego Dimensions, which is the front runner for Game of the Year I keep reading about. And so, just didn't have time to get into that NBA because I'm too obsessed now with playing with toys in this room, in streaming building. It's just Lego Dimensions. I know we talked about it last week, but that was more before I had the actual retail box. You know what I mean? Now I'm in multiple hours, multiple Twitch streams here. I have my own Legos, my own thing, and damn, is this game fun?
You
know what I mean? Like it's the Lego games. Maybe in like I'm still just getting into the story, if that makes sense, because I'm doing so many the level packs with Portal and Simpsons, and then like I have.
Did you do Ninjago?
No, I didn't. I did not buy Ninjago. I'm sorry. I know I should have. I do run into these things every so often that only the Ninjago guys can interact with.
Duh.
And I do think maybe I should have picked up a Ninjago guy. But that's where they get you. They're not going to get me. All right?
They're going to get you.
No, I'm not. I will not randomly at full price buy packs that I don't care about. On a discount, 2-for-1 sale, I'm not going to count myself out on that one. But like in terms of just like straight up going there paying full retail, I'm not doing it.
Okay. We'll see.
I'm not buying
We'll
Ninjago
see when you're done with all this
with
stuff.
the exception of crazy sales.
Okay.
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 All right. Good. Yeah, we will see where I'm. But yeah, game's a ton of fun to play. It's a ton of fun to stream. It's one of those games that actually works well for streaming, where I can talk to everybody and hang out. There's still these giant portions where I unbox something and I'm like, all right, and then it's 30 minutes, 20 minutes of me building the Legos on camera, and everybody loves that because then I just talk and we put
It's
together
fucking
Legos.
Legos, man. There's nothing more fun than Legos.
And that's the thing is, like, I think honestly I'd forgotten how much fun Legos were to put together, because, like, you know what I mean, like there's the Ghostbusters up there, but I don't have any room for it, so I never put it together. It's just in the box or whatever. And so this is the chance to sit there and build for a reason and not have it be too overwhelming, right? I can still put everything in a box and get it out of here. But like building the portal the other night, and like here, let me show you. All right, so you got the portal. I build the portal, right? And so I build the portal, Tim. And on the back here, I put all these little doodads, right? And I'm like, that's a weird place. And you put it on the back, nothing's happening on the back, right? And so then in the game, I found one of these. And then they were like, all right, stop. You have to pull it off the back. It had instructions of pulling it off the back and putting it on the front. So then I'm matching. And I was like, holy shit. I'm actually doing something with the portal now.
But why do you have to do that?
Because basically, if they're back here, I don't have them. And if they're up here, I do have them. And then they give me different abilities with the guys to move them around. They make portals. I just unlocked another one. I'm not 100% sure what it does yet. I don't know yet. But you put them, you hop them around, use them through the portal, solve the puzzles with them and stuff.
So what does Moses do in the game?
That's I know you're not a big reader. That's of course Ganondorf from the hit film Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, of course,
Gandalf.
it's Gandalf. Of course, I'm just kidding because if you remove the cape, he looks like
and the witch's
he's on
hat.
the mount.
Take off the witch's hat too, probably. I don't think Moses wore a wizard's hat.
Can we take the cape off?
Yeah, take his head off. He's a Lego. You can do whatever you want to him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, hey, don't lose his beard now. There's Chell.
So how was the portal pack?
Mind blowing.
Really?
Because it's like one of those things where I jumped into this game and I honestly knew that I liked the franchises. I knew what I had seen before from demos and stuff. And I'm like, don't want to know much more about it. I'm going to have fun and get it. So I get in and I literally get into level 1 after building the portal, building the Batmobile and assembling a few other things. Jump in. What is wrong?
I'm just realizing. So these are real just minifigs.
Yeah, you build these. They all come loose and you have to open it up and go through the instruction manual and make them all.
I thought these were like more of
glued to the base?
Yeah. Like
No,
I thought
you-
these were specific.
You pop the Batmobile off the base and it's a Batmobile. You roll it down over there. These are real Legos.
This
These
is
are
fucking awesome.
right? Yeah, exactly.
So here we go.
now
Well,
you've
no, I
made
thought
Moses.
it was like just like
Show it to
this
the
was stuck
camera. There
together,
you go.
And then you put it on there.
Moses.
But no,
There's going to be some DLC about when he goes into Egypt.
I jump into level 1. I immediately backtrack because during my demo they're like, "Oh, and here's where you can get your first mini kit or whatever." I'm like,
Mini kit?
Yeah, mini kit.
Oh, okay.
You know, where you go through or one of the pieces to assemble the whole mini kit, and it's like, "Oh, you need an explosive." And none of the guys I had at the time were explosive, but they were in the chat was like, "Oh, well, Homer's TV is explosive." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go get that." So I had to play the Simpsons level pack. Jump in, it is the Lego Simpsons, which is so like, but everybody maintains their art style, right? So like Batman looks like Batman, Wild Style moves like the Lego characters in the movie did in the stop motion thing, whereas the other people just move normally and shit. And then you jump into the Simpsons and it looks like the Simpsons, and it's got these Lego Simpsons, and it's like whoa. But it was the level is. The level pack, I should say, the level you play through, is the one where I don't know how big of a Simpsons fan you were, but it's the chili one where he ate the Chief Wiggum's chili and then goes on the spiritual quest. So it's audio pulled from that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. It's telling me in a different way. They had Johnny Cash's VO, which I thought was crazy and awesome and stuff. And I was like, awesome, that was fun. It was a nice throwback. So in my head now, I'm like, that's how they're all going to be, right? That's how it plays out. So then we jump into Portal 2, and we're playing, and and they start referencing Portal 2. And it's like, oh no, this is all new. This is GLaDOS. This is GLaDOS. This is Wheatley. This is J.K. Simmons' guy who runs these are all new voices. This is a new Portal story in this level that is taking place after Portal 2, and you're working with Wheatley again and going. And they had the puzzles and the shooting the portal gun in making Lego portals and jumping through them and then solving. And like, don't get me wrong, they're toned down puzzles and stuff, but that was awesome. And I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. And then outside of just the level pack, you're gonna fly the invisible plane into Portillo. Outside of just the portal pack, right? Like when you get a level pack, you get this level pack that's a story that you play through, right? But then you also, if you have the character, when you have one of the characters, open up their hub world where there's like random stuff to do, races to do, all this other stuff to do, right? And so like I played around with DC Comics last night where I jumped in, and it's Metropolis and Gotham are like slammed together and everything's kind of in a hellish thing because that's what's happening in the game. I go in there. Immediately, there's this woman who's like, hey, if I have all the pieces, if you can help me, and you have to pay her the studs you've collected to build the Superman statue. And then it's like, okay, cool. That's one of the construction jobs done. And then there's another one over here. Then there's some Batmobile races. There's a flying race. Then I ran into Lois Lane, and she's like voiced, and she's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And like she basically runs from point A to point B to C to D to F or whatever around the city, explaining what's happening. This is Arkham Manor, and this is Lex Bill, and like getting attacked, and you have to save her. I'm like, this is awesome. I kept wanting to do stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that's how those levels work. You jump into Portal 2's one, and it's all the other AI cores are there, and they all have challenges and puzzles for you to do with the portal gun. It's just like,
there's a lot of content.
That's awesome. Like, yeah.
So the question I have is, obviously Lego games have always really been about fan service and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there enough game there, minus the fan service, to make it fun and worth playing? Like if you were to play Ninjago, something that you have no real connection to at all, do you think it'd be entertaining?
Hard to say. Here's so let's go this way. All right, I'm talking about the Portal and the Simpsons level, and I love them, right? Because yeah, I love those two franchises or whatever. Don't hit Cyborg with the Batmobile. Oh no. I love those universes, so I'm clearly in love with them, right? But in the story mode, right, I'm dropped into Wizard of Oz, and I don't have any affinity for Wizard of Oz or anything.
You have no fucking soul, Greg.
Sorry. But I enjoy playing it. I'm running around. I'm doing it, Dorothy. There's a bunch of funny jokes there. I'm fighting.
You're doing Dorothy?
I'm doing Dorothy.
That's fucked up.
I'm fighting the wicked. I'm fighting the Wicked Witch. Right? Like I had fun in those. So, I mean, Ninjago, you drop me in, and I would literally be like, Is this a cartoon? Is this a game? Is this? I don't know what the hell this is. Is this just Lego figures? You know what I mean?
It's a Lego.
All of those could be true. So I don't know what specifically what that one would be. So I don't know for you. But so far, enjoying myself quite a bit.
So is Colin.
Yeah. Look, yeah, Legos are just fun. Look at them. He's making Batmobile. He's running. There you go. And then you put him on those things right there, and he can, you got it.
Oh, yeah, like
you got it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him like this. That makes no sense.
Now he's just like Ferris Bueller.
And then Cyborg's in the middle.
You got Homer out here with his cola.
And that's how you play with toys. If you remember correctly.
What have you been playing, Colin?
A couple Vita games. I played a little bit of Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection. We'll save that. I don't have too much insight into it, but we'll talk about Uncharted generally. I played the Vita game Zod Drifter on my way home a week or two ago, and it's a game by our friend Jules Wassam, who's the leader or the owner and CEO whatever of Renegade Kid, which is a studio down in Texas that does Mutant Mudds and stuff. They're basically a Nintendo developer, and they've been bringing their stuff to PlayStation. So I'm actually a big fan of Mutant Mudds Deluxe on Vita, and he and I are friendly. We talk on Twitter and see each other at trade shows and stuff. And he had sent us he was the first person to send us a game when we had broken off, and he had sent us Zod Drifter on PC. Zod Drifter is also on PC. It's on 3DS. I think it's on Wii U. And it's cool. It's like a very pixelated, which is what they do, stylized kind of open world Metroidvania game, but it takes like 2 hours to beat. So it's like bite size. It's kind of neat. And Renegade Kid's whole shtick, whether it's in Mutant Mudds or in this game, and I don't know if it's in their other games because I haven't played them, but they like playing with dimensions in terms of going into the background and then coming back into the foreground. So you like find things that allow you to go into the background and then jump back into the foreground. And that's how you play the game.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Country Returns.
Pretty much. Similar, yeah. What was that?
That was Christine Yellen.
Oh, okay. And it's just a cool game because it's just bite size. It's just 4 planets, and you land on each of the planets, and then you find something on the planet that you need, like fight a boss. All the bosses are the same. You fight the boss, and then like you get something, and then you go back to another planet, and you can now get a little further. But you're like jumping around constantly. It's like way more backtracking than say like Symphony of the Night or something. But I thought it was like a cool little bite-sized game. It takes a few hours maybe to play. If you want to get everything, it might take you a little bit longer because there's upgrades to find and stuff. And there's a trophy for beating the game in under an hour, I think. So there's some trophies to play around with. So I recommend that game, Zod Drifter. It was free a couple months ago, I think, on PS Plus, but you can go buy it. It's probably pretty cheap. And I think it's also on PS4. So I do recommend that. And then I've been messing around more recently with Danganronpa, another episode, Ultimate or Ultra Despair Girls, whatever the game's called, which is basically, I've only played it for like a couple hours. And it's the spin-off that when we had Kadaka-san here, who's the creator of the series, talking about how it's a very different game. It's not Danganronpa 3. It's very fan servicey and very story heavy, which is fine, but it's not quite clicking with me enough where I want to like continue to play it, but I will because I love Danganronpa. But it's like a third-person shooter. It's a little rough. It's super violent, which I think is pretty interesting. Like the Danganronpa games.
What does that mean? Is it really bloody and stuff, or
Danganronpa is to skirt, I think, ratings issues and to also not scare people off. Blood in Danganronpa games is always pink, and the
Inviting.
which I think is actually really disturbing and unsettling. I think I like that design choice. I think it's actually way cooler than having it as red blood. But the Danganronpa 1 and Danganronpa 2 are murder mysteries. So lots of people die, and they die in brutal fucking ways in the game. Like when Monokuma kills someone, he
don't fuck around.
No, he really doesn't. Like the whole thing is
he wants them dead.
For people that don't know, Danganronpa's story is in the first one it takes place at a school, and the second one takes place on like a desert island. It's basically like talented kids end up isolated in this place, and they're locked in by Monokuma, who's a fucking teddy bear. And the game is about how you can only escape if you murder someone, and you get away with it. So slowly people start dying, and then it's like Phoenix Wright meets like
Battle
a
Royale.
Yeah, basically meets like a virtual or a visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like very story heavy, but then someone dies and you investigate kind of like Phoenix Wright, and then you have a trial. And Monokuma is the judge, and like everyone is like using these things called truth bullets and stuff to like
truth bullets.
Yeah, try to tear each other up. And then if the person's caught murdering someone, which is how the story goes, like everyone's ultimately caught murdering someone else. Monokuma executes them in like really dramatic ways, and so I'm telling you that because the game has always been violent, but that's always been the unsettling nature of a teddy bear that is killing everyone. That's why Danganronpa is really like one of the themes is it's just weird, you know. And this game is just in the beginning is like super violent because it's about there are multiple Monokumas technically, but in this game there are like a shit ton of like an army of Monokumas, and they're just murdering everyone. And the story is pretty cool because at least preliminarily from where I am, it's about how the kids are killing all the adults in the world. Like that's what it's all about. And Children of the Corn is my favorite horror movie for the similar reason. I like that kind of story where it's like the kids are killing the adults. Like that's just super scary
Fucked
and weird.
up,
Yeah. And
teddy bears, and it's just
exactly
much better.
But like in the beginning of the game, like their claws are coming out, and like the Monokumas are just stabbing everyone and like killing everyone, and it's like super fucking violent. And I was like, it's pretty cool. But then
Is the blood pink?
Blood's pink.
Okay.
And then the story gets in the way though and I've been reading a little bit about it on NeoGAF and stuff where people are just saying the same things, which is like this. It's just so story heavy. Like you just want to play it. It maybe like Final Fantasy X, where the game just keeps getting in its own way. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that just in a couple hours, where I'm like, I might have played the game for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a little disappointing me. So those are the two games I'm spending time with on Vita, in addition to Uncharted, because I'm just trying to kind of like tick these boxes of these games. I just need to get out of the way.
Are you done with Mad Max?
No, I'm not. I want to go back and play Mad Max. I'm almost done with it. I'm close to filling up getting everything in the entire map, which means I assume that I have to be pretty close to having beaten it.
Gotcha.
But I want to spend time with Uncharted, which we'll talk about in a minute. And that's going to take some time. But I will get back to Mad Max. And I intend on getting back to Dying Light 2. But who the fuck knows? There's nothing. The beauty is there's nothing really of any consequence for me coming out between now and Fallout. So I have time. Unless I'm missing something.
Finally time.
a little Twilight Zone reference. I appreciate that. So unless there's something major I'm missing, I'm sure there's going to be incidental downloadable games and little smaller games that are going to come out that I'm excited about that I want to play. But like Soma, I still need to get through and all that. But I'm going to try to use this month of October wisely to just get rid of some of this shit, because once Fallout comes out,
it's over.
You're fucked.
That's a month of my life, and then
I think it's more. I think it's gonna be more than a month.
I mean, who knows? You know, like I hope that I want to be smart when Fallout comes out with our schedules, where it's like, let's get everything done so we can just not talk.
Do 4 Gamecasts the day before. I don't know what's happening anymore, but this is what's going on.
I can't wait. We're getting. That's the other thing, Greg, and I know you're not excited about it, Tim, but we're getting close. We're like 5.5 weeks away from the game.
Well, I know, but that's why I try to. I mean, there's so much. I'm on the same thing right now. I feel like I'm trying to clean things up before it gets here. You know what I mean? Like you figure I'm waiting for. We're doing Extra Life. Kindafunny.com/extra life if you want to join or support us, kick us some money for our fundraising efforts for Children's Miracle Network. But my plan is for my shift of Extra Life to platinum Metal Gear, which I'm not. I need to do more housekeeping to get it into a place where it's like, all right, I have 8 hours. What do I need to do? Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
That's cool. I mean, I'm happy. I'm not looking forward to Fallout.
Yeah,
because that means that I have November to still catch up on all this other stuff.
Do you think
November will probably be my Metal Gear beating time?
Do you think every month's my beating time?
Yeah,
every day is my beating time.
you guys are extravagant.
Do you think there's any chance that Fallout might grab you?
I don't.
Wow.
I really don't.
That's
I mean,
so
are you going to give it a
surprising.
shot?
I will for you guys.
Thank you.
I just
Can we
don't.
let's do a let's play where you play
Okay.
from the beginning.
Don't
Okay.
crouch the entire time. This
Don't
time.
crouch the whole time.
I won't crouch. Yeah. No, I'm down for that. That'll be interesting. I don't think it will. It's just too the open world stuff, man. It just sounds too crazy.
Do you
to me.
think you're going to get hooked by Lego Dimensions?
Get hooked by it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I'm excited for Transformers. I have
Oh
hope
yeah,
for Transformers.
Devastation. Transformers Devastation next week.
So Transformers, we'll get to this later in the topic where we talk about science games are bad. So far, that one's not doing that for me. That's looking good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a chance it might
It's
not
failing
be.
my test number 1 that you're excited about it.
No, I know. So we're screwed for that.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about that because I'm going to be playing the shit out of that come next week. Because right now I'm playing a shit ton of Uncharted.
Oh, are we switching topics?
We are switching
Did it
topics.
just happen, or are we in the middle of it?
We're now in topic 2. Does it shoot? Oh, it does shoot. Oh, man, that's not a good idea.
I know, right? Let's shoot a thing that's like the tiniest little thing. That's Cyborg, everybody, from the hit game Lego Dimensions. Don't worry, they send you 3 extras. So
Do they?
yeah,
I wish they did that when we were kids.
right. Well, they learned.
They lost all my
Yeah,
missiles for all my
ridiculous.
planes and shit, my G.I. Joe planes.
That ain't a good idea at all. So, okay, Uncharted.
Right.
This is a very, very, very big deal to me that this Uncharted Nathan Drake collection came out. Because in 2007, the game came out, Uncharted 1, PlayStation 3, and I did not own a PS3 at the time because I was a poor child.
You don't have to make excuses.
Yeah.
I didn't own I was on the PlayStation team. Didn't own a PlayStation.
Well,
3
no,
for the
that
first
was,
year and a half.
yeah, that was the thing. But then Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, sold a bunch of games, got my PS3, super stoked about it, beat Metal Gear 4, and then I was like, what's the game that I've been waiting for? I remember there was a game I played at GameStop. There was this thing, there was a demo. I forgot what it was. I didn't know it was Uncharted.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was like Google searching, trying to figure it out, scouring the internet.
Yeah,
And then I saw Uncharted. I'm like, that's what it is. And then you saw it's that. I didn't realize.
Some white guy. Fuck, there's a lot of these people.
Yeah,
in
no.
this
I
game.
didn't realize that which one it was because I remember when it was first announced and it just looked like Tomb Raider, like when the first trailer for it.
The guys who did Crash are doing this weird jungle game. You're like, what?
Yeah, and I totally wrote it up, but I didn't realize that it was the same game that I had played a demo of. And then I bought it and I fell fucking in love with it. And Uncharted 1, to this day, one of my favorite games of all time. Then 2 came out, I got distracted, started doing a bunch of other stuff, and eventually 3 came out, and I was like, I'm gonna get to them one day. Then it got to the point where I was like, all right, I bought them. I bought both of them. And I'm like, I'm going to beat them. Just going to back-to-back beat them. Then the PS4 was announced. I'm like, they're definitely going to do an HD version.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of motherfucker that's like, I want to play the like HD shit. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to wait for them to finally announce it. Then they announced it. Now it's fucking out. Now I get to play it.
Sure.
So now I get to join you gentlemen
Yay.
as people.
That like
That deserve
Uncharted
to
3
live,
more than
really.
Uncharted 2.
So far, I've been playing the shit out of these games. I didn't play 1 because I already beat that
You already
before.
knew 1, yeah.
Yeah. And I beat 2, and I'm 25% through 3.
Okay.
Planning to beat it within the next week.
So you already got to the part where Elena hangs herself.
I think I missed that part.
Okay. Sorry.
But,
Well, it's not coming up. Don't worry about it.
Okay. But I'm fucking in love with this franchise and this game specifically. The collection is so good.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God, it's beautiful. They did such a good job of making last gen look great this gen.
Yeah.
And because I remember Uncharted 1 and how it looked, and it looked great. And I played a demo of Uncharted 2, so I remember how these all look and feel or whatever. But like this is some next level shit.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to know from you guys is, because obviously I have a lot of opinions as a first time player of this shit, but I want to know if you guys are excited about playing, or if you've played any of the collection so far, and if people that have already played the games should replay.
We played 40 minutes or so of each.
Let's Plays.
Drake's Fortune Among Thieves and Drake's Deception. And I agree with you that, well, first of all, and I said this on PS I Love You, but I just can't quantify because I just don't know whether it's necessarily true or not. I don't remember that game looking that good. Specifically the first one. I just don't remember it looking like that. I remember there being a massive jump between 1 and 2 and a much smaller jump between 2 and 3. And I feel like the jump isn't really there anymore. And I don't know if it's just like
they put a sheen on all this. They have.
I just don't.
That's the thing is like, yeah, what you're saying is when you saw 2 after 1, you're like, holy crap. And like 1 looks now the way it looked in my head. You know what I mean? Like you sit there and the jokes are always about Ocarina of Time, right? Where you think back and you imagine running through Hyrule Field and it was beautiful, and then you go back and it's just one flat fucking texture and 2 trees. And you're like, damn. You know what I mean? Like the Uncharted 1 playing through it again at Drake's Fortune on the collection, I was like, oh, this game's great. I'm like, something was done here to make it look more beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think, as far as I understand, Blue Point has, and I was reading about this because I just didn't. I actually didn't. I've only played Drake's Fortune in the collection. Greg played all of them on our Let's Play. So I don't know. The gist of it is that they've apparently unified the combat a little bit between the games, which is cool because there was differences. People had a huge problem with 3's combat, especially, and I think that pre-patch. I think once they patch it, there was something off to that about that game with a lot of people. I didn't really. I mean, I remember that vaguely. It's a long time ago. That's like 150 games ago. So to answer your questions, we spent a little bit of time, but not enough to authoritatively talk about the collection itself. Other than to say that I'm sure Blue Point has done a great job as they always.
Sounds like he has.
As they always do, and we noticed some things in our Let's Plays that I'm not positive were in the original games in terms of like some weird, like magnetism with jumps and some weird, some weird like frame jumping and stuff. Like, I don't remember things like this, but they might have always been there, and I just don't know. We were so enamored with these fucking games. Who the fuck knows? But do I recommend playing them again? Yes. They're fantastic games. I'm going to play through them all again. I think that they're fucking must-play games if you've never played them. And even if you have played them, I've platinumed all 3 of the games, as has Greg, on PS3. I'm going to platinum the 3 of them again. So, and it'll be easier this time because crushing's unlocked and all that.
There is one mode that's not unlocked.
Yeah, brutal mode is not unlocked, and even though the trophies are not live yet, I reached out to Sony and they sent me the trophies, and so I looked at them, and while I cannot tell everyone the exact extent of the trophies, I can talk a little bit about them according to my contacts there, and they gave me permission to say that there are trophies, gold trophies attached to brutal difficulty, but what it appears to be, and what we were talking about today on Colin and Greg was there seems to be DLC attachments to each of them on the trophy list.
In quotes.
So what I mean by that is like it's like the core game has its core list, and there are some new trophies on the core list, especially for 2 and 3 because they removed the online trophies because there's no online components. But then there seems to be an extended version trophy list that is equivalent to a DLC or a downloadable game trophy list that has like a bunch of random shit in. And in that trophy list are the brutal difficulty ones, along with all these other like trophies that Blue Point put into the game that were not in the game originally. So it seems like the platinum might just be contingent on beating it on crushing, which is manageable. We've done that already. These are, I hate using this word because it's like such a contrived and a meaningless word, really, but these are magical games. Like these are, the Uncharted trilogy is special. This is the cream of the crop PlayStation exclusive series. Not maybe the game. I mean, I think The Last of Us is better than all of the Uncharted games, but this is from the studio that made The Last of Us, and this, in terms of a series, this is the most important, pivotal, paramount apex series for PlayStation, and so everyone deserves and owes it to themselves to play these games. I think the Uncharted series is virtually unmatched in terms of its combination of gameplay, story, acting, writing, and presentation. I don't think anyone does all of that better than the Uncharted series. A lot of series do gameplay better, a lot of series might do storytelling better, but none of them takes all of that. I don't think anything. Maybe BioShock and The Last of Us and a few other games.
Yeah. You know, playing through them for the first time, for all intents and purposes, it is magical. It is really amazing, and I'm just addicted to playing it. I keep thinking about it. It's one of those games where it's like I want to be playing it right now. I want to know what happens next.
Sure.
It's interesting though to see that in addition to them all being masterpieces, like at least so far, all 3 of them I would say are amazing games. It's crazy to see the improvement, like specifically from 1 to 2. Because I loved 1. I think 1 is such a great game. 2 is so much better. Yeah. It's like not even a question. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that 1 was a lot harder than 2. And I think hard not in a like
fun challenging
way, just to kind of this is bullshit.
Bang your head against the wall. How are you gonna survive this monster?
There's just so many waves of motherfuckers coming, and it's just like, God damn it.
That's always been their style with their first games too. Crash.
For
instance, it's like they don't nail difficulty levels right the first time. They just don't.
And that's a very good point. I mean, it definitely feels like that. And it's not to say Uncharted 1 was difficult. It's just compared to 2 got the balance so much better.
Yeah.
It was just fun. Like, I never felt anytime I died a couple times, it was my fault. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I had to do better the next time. That's good. You know, it's like
That's
when you
game
feel
design.
like you're being rewarded to constantly keep pushing forward, it's great. And I think that the one was a little bit repetitive. Like it was, you know, very much you climb a bit, then cutscene, and then you shoot a bunch of
like a set
motherfuckers,
piece
and
and
people
all
just keep kind of coming. And then there wasn't too many set pieces in one. Like there was a few like, you know, key things, but especially not compared to 2.
Yeah, I guess set piece is kind of the wrong place. Maybe we were wrong word. Maybe arena.
Oh, okay.
Arena
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
perfect
yeah,
sense.
yeah. There'd be like an arena thing and then a puzzle. And the puzzle just slows everything to like a crawl.
Sure.
Where all of a sudden it wasn't this forward moving thing. It's like, all right, I need to stop and think about this stuff. I definitely think the puzzles are the weakest parts so far, and that also goes into 2. I feel like 2's pacing was so much better where it had that same format, but they'd switched up a bit more, and the arenas never felt as similar to each other. Like, I guess the terrain and being able... There was a lot more verticality in 2 than 1, for sure. And also just the locations being different made it feel more fresh. Like, being in a city compared to just a jungle the whole time.
Yeah.
And, like, the snow, and there's just so many different... you know, variations on environments. And that made it a lot better too. But then whenever it got to the puzzle parts, I was always just like, oh man, like I know what I need to do here. This isn't fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea of looking at the journal and, you know, figuring out the clues of how you need to do stuff, it's cool and it's like nifty, you know, but nifty is the best way I can put it, which is like, that's not a good thing. It's just like, all right, I guess that's unique. And then on the PS4, you hit the little like trackpad thing, but then you don't turn the pages with the trackpad.
That was weird,
you
right?
Turn it with the. It's like those sections were the one things that I'm like, oh, this isn't perfect. Having said that, I still think it's
Fun.
you know, amazing, as perfect of a game as it can be. But like, there's, you know, I'm just giving my gripes, my
I hear you,
small
bro.
minor gripes here. But yeah, those sections, it was like the puzzles are all so obvious, and it's like, okay, I know what I need to do. Why do I need to look at this picture and match these things that takes 3 years to
Rotate them to
you know,
where they need to be.
rotate,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff. It's like that. It's when it stopped feeling like, oh my god, I'm playing through a movie, and oh, I'm playing a video game.
Sure.
So-
They're learning.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't beat 3 yet. Although 25% into 3, I've already seen more of those bullshit type puzzles than were in 2 at all.
Oh,
Without spoiling, what did you think of the beginning of 3? Did you know that happened?
That happened.
After the intro, don't say it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't. Very cool.
That's like my favorite moment in any Uncharted game.
Oh, yeah. It's been very... I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but 3 so far is the one that I'm most intrigued because I'm like, what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know where this is
Talbot?
going. Yeah. Yeah.
Catherine Marlowe.
Is he cross-eyed? Or is that just a glitch?
It's
in a cutscene I was looking
That
at.
must be a glitch in the cutscene you're
Okay.
looking at.
Because I thought that was part of his character. Like, that's pretty, like, that's weird.
Catherine Marlowe's cross-eyed friend.
Yeah. But the biggest issue I had with 2 is the puzzle parts and the fact that it felt just a little too long. Like, I feel like we could have shaved off maybe 10%. Like, one last, all right, now I have this clue. Oh, but this clue's not the final thing. This clue just shows I need one more place to go. And it's just like, I felt like it was just the same story beat over and over and
Sure.
over. And 3's definitely already kind of remedying that. So it is cool to see the progression of them learning how to change it up and stuff. And it's 2 was essentially 1 again, but bigger and better.
See, that was my problem with 2, and why I think when we were talking about this, I always talk about why I think I like 3 more, just from a story perspective, is the fact that I thought 2 was supercharged 1 in like beat by beat of all this stuff's happening. All right, this guy's gonna betray you. All right, this is
And
going
really
on.
beat by beat. Like,
This
there's
is-
story elements
Guess
that
what?
I'm like,
There's a supernatural twist. You're like, what the fuck? No, this is out of the blue. Okay, whatever. You know what I mean? And, it's like,
and that worked the first time.
Yeah.
I
The
think.
first time I remember playing, like, holy cow! And the second one, I was like, I'm predicting everything that's about to happen. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
well-
I'm aware, not like specifically, but in terms of
but I
beats.
essentially predicted, like, once the supernatural stuff in 2 happened,
Yeah.
I knew the source of it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Where, because like it's very obvious if you played the first game.
Sure.
But yeah, already playing the third one, I'm like, man, this is different.
Yeah,
Like the
that's one
way
of the
they're
reasons I love
handling
it,
the
yeah.
story is so different. The environments again and all that stuff, and then the gameplay changes too. Like it's fun that, like, the opening scene of 3 is
The bar fight.
the bar fight,
Amazing.
and
Camera
totally
angles.
unlike
Yeah.
the opening of 2 or the opening of 1. And I think that's good because they totally could have just, again, 2 opens with the train hanging off the thing. They could have just done that again with 3, where it's like, here's another crazy ass thing.
How's Drake gonna get out of this
situation?
Yeah.
Where the bar fight was like totally unexpected and fun and really. It was cool, and what happens after the bar fight, it was just like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And for a while, it started feeling a little tutorial-y, but it's the beginning of a game.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
shit's going to happen. But yeah, so far, 3 has been a lot slower, and there hasn't been any moment that I'm like, fuck, this is awesome.
Oh,
because
interesting.
2 has some of those. Like, I tweeted about this. Everyone always talks about this train sequence being the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah.
Now that I finally know what they're talking about, holy shit, that was amazing. That is a video game set piece 101. Every game designer should look at that and be like, this is how to make fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Having said that, that wasn't my favorite set piece in the game. I think that the building scene.
Oh, right.
Like that was better than the train scene. Like that was definitely something that had me be like, oh shit, I am engaged with what's happening.
See, and it's that's interesting. How much do you know about 3 sequences and
none
stuff?
Yeah.
All right, great, perfect. I'm telling you because there's a big one that was ruined in a commercial, right? That then spoiled it for when we were playing it in 3. But I think what you're talking about with 2 in particular is the fact that they hid the train forever, and the part with the building you played through multiple times at E3s and preview events and everything else. So that's probably why I get swept under the rug in terms of critics and press opinions, right? It's just that we knew about it. I remember, I think I described that point by point in one of my first previews of it. You know what I mean? Like, people knew about that.
Yeah.
Whereas, what you're talking about.
Because I did not, it's funny because I knew about the train, at least being a big thing.
Sure.
Didn't know about the building. So when it was happening, I'm like, what the shit is happening now?
Yeah, my favorite sequence, I won't spoil it for either. It's not even what Greg's talking about either in the commercial, is my favorite set piece and favorite scene sequence in you'll know it, I think, when you get there. Once you beat 3, I'll ask you about it because I think it's fucking extraordinary, and I think it's actually one of the overlooked ones from the entire series. But do you know what I'm talking about?
No, you've given no details on what you're talking about.
I don't want to say.
Okay.
I don't want to. I want him to. I don't even want him to know it exists. So.
Okay. Oh, when Elena hangs herself.
Oh,
Right. Exactly.
Shit.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. My God, man, the characters. Like I knew I loved them. Like even in 1, they were so great. But 2 really solidified. Like, man, I care about these characters. I care about the relationships so much. And it's like they added all the new characters they added in 2.
Oh, sure.
I fucking loved.
Right.
The villains, I fucking hate them. You
Lazarevich?
know? Well, Lazarevich, whatever. But the other fucking
I'm bald and angry.
punk-ass
I'm gonna
motherfucker.
drink this stuff.
And I like that he calls him Lazarevich.
Yeah.
Like that is the dialogue's just so good.
It is really
and
good.
Everything Sully says, period.
Yeah.
It's just the best.
Amazing, yeah.
The El Goddamn Dorado.
El Goddamn Dorado.
And in 3 he has another goddamn line that I really liked, but
It's blank right now.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I am the opposite of Colin, where I loved those games and I had fun platinuming, and I just don't. I'm not psyched to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't. I feel like when Last of Us was coming to PS4, I was like, yes, I've been craving replaying Last of Us. Awesome. And I sat down the weekend and I got to the dam, and I was just like, I'm not feeling this. Like it's just not the same. And I don't. And like, I mean, granted, Uncharted are a bit different because we had the platinum, so it was backwards, forwards. I reviewed them. I knew those games. You know what I mean? And so maybe that's part of it. And I just don't feel like going back and doing it again. I loved those games. If you've never played them, I would say, yeah, for sure play them. But if you're like, you asked earlier, if somebody hasn't, if you've played them before, should you play them again? Like that's a eye of the beholder kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't have it in me, I don't think.
See, what's interesting to me is the changes that they made, like the physics stuff, and they did make the games feel, from what I've been reading, they made all 3 of the games feel more similar to each other. And just the controller alone makes it so much better. Like,
well, it was weird to play it and use the triggers.
Yeah, being
like,
able to use the trigger and like to reload with R1 and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, like it feels so much more natural than the PS3 controller did. And I never really had an issue with the PS3 controller.
It's funny you say that because you can switch back to L1 and R1, and I did.
Oh, really?
Like I'm like, that's just how you play these games. Like that's it's gonna be weird going on Uncharted 4. I'm sure they'll give you
they'll give you the option again for sure.
But I feel like these games, like where there's I'm just used to playing them with L1 and R1, and when I tried to play them with the triggers, I'm like, I can't play it like this. It's it doesn't feel right.
This isn't what Neil Druckmann imagined.
And then in playing, I probably should have waited to do this, but it didn't really spoil anything anyways. But 25% through 3 last night, before I went to bed, I pulled up the Uncharted 4 trailer. I'm like, oh my God, I am so excited for this. Oh, it's gonna be so fun good. Yeah, so after I beat 3, I'm gonna play Golden Abyss, and I'm very, very excited.
Golden Abyss.
I'm just in like a fucking good
Uncharted, yeah.
But the thing, going back to you replaying it, it's like these games are similar to movies in the sense that like some people like rewatching movies over and over, and other people don't. And like for me, I can't imagine really wanting to go back and play these Uncharted games again after I already beat them.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay is amazing, but the gameplay is a tool to progress the story.
Yeah,
and I love that because it's like this is all right. One last topic I want to talk about before we move on is
subtopic in this topic.
Yeah, the subtopic within this is the fact that it's crazy how earlier I was talking about how different generations have control schemes that kind of just change or whatever.
Yeah.
And going from playing Metal Gear Solid 5, because I put that on hold to play this.
Sure.
It's crazy that Uncharted just does not feel right. Like MGS5's action, just like going around and shooting and everything,
right.
and like the stealth and all that. I'm like, this feels fucking awesome. And then playing this, it's like, oh man, this feels a little off. And it's like, I know it's just because I was just coming from that.
It's so hard to go back,
these are games that are 10 years old.
So hard to go back. That was the thing of playing the Uncharted 2 opening where we're like stealthing around trying to take out those guards. And I was in the fountain. And I like creep over behind the guy, and like you snap to cover and come around, and then it's like, all right, I hit the square button to grab him, and I just stand up and do a whiff a punch at his head and alert him. And I was like, wait, where's the sweet spot? Like that felt like that would have been in Metal Gear, the sweet spot to get up and choke the guy. But it's like, okay, I got to figure this out. This isn't that game. This isn't that thing because of the time.
And that's the cool thing for me is like, I took a break from Metal Gear because I wanted this linearity, and it's just like, man, I wish Metal Gear did play a little bit more like this story-wise.
Yeah.
I just want to just get through this thing and be constantly rewarded for what I'm doing, but just pure like the feeling of how the character feels and how you feel in control of what you're doing. Like Snake is just so much more like on point, and I cannot wait for Uncharted 4. Like I think Uncharted 4 is just gonna merge those two to be this fucking perfect experience for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, topic 3 of the day. Signs you know a game will be horrible.
Tim likes it.
Yeah,
we've already identified if Tim is excited about a game, it's going to be garbage. Because this is coming from the guy who was not excited for Metal Gear 5, but has been fucking banging the Tony Hawk 5
I was excited for Tony Hawk
forever.
Metal Gear 5?
No, you remember? You were all like, I don't know, I didn't like Peace Walker. I don't know if I'm going to like this.
No, but I was still excited for it. I was super excited for Metal Gear. All right, so this topic was originally going to be why you need to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. And it's not that. Because I can't, sit here and tell you that you should play this fucking
Now, for the record,
game.
you haven't played it, though, right?
No, I played it.
Oh, you have? I apologize.
Yeah.
I thought you hadn't played it yet.
I haven't played it extensively enough to really give a full review of the game.
Sure.
I've played enough to know its problems and to know what I like about it. So I'm going to treat this topic what would have been that. Just there's not that much positive things to say.
Sure.
It's bad. Period. It's bad. It doesn't make sense how a game that is this high profile from Activision, there's money being put behind this. Tony Hawk's name is on this. This is not a spin-off of Tony Hawk. This is, we're going back, we're doing it right, except we're not.
Yeah.
And for me, my holdout for it was, I was like, all right, the graphics look really bad. Shit, whatever. Oh, all the video. Why does it look like no trailer for this was even edited?
Right,
People just released footage and didn't even think about what was being shown. How come I haven't seen anybody that actually knows how to playing in any footage at all? All these signs that just looked really bad. But I'm like, whatever. It's still Tony Hawk. If the gameplay's there, I'm fine. I played with it for 15 minutes, and that was enough to be like, all right, this is not right.
Didn't come together.
It's for anybody that played I played every Tony Hawk game, at least in the core. So I played all the Pro Skaters, all the Thugs, American Wasteland, Project 8. The only one I didn't play was the
Ride.
No, so those don't count.
Full of technology.
What was after Project 8? The whatever the hell it was called. It was another started with a P.
Breaking, I think. I'm just gonna not move it.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That shit was bad. It was really, really, really bad. So playing the old games was amazing for me. That was a game I looked forward to every year. It was an annualized thing that was good. And you look back at Tony Hawk 2, 10 out of 10 from IGN. Tony Hawk 3, 10 out of 10 from GameSpot.
Damn.
These games were 10 out of 10 quality, right?
Right.
And now you look at this and you're like, what? And this is
could you
Tony
imagine
Hawk's,
this would happen to your series?
To Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. This is getting that title. And their whole thing is we're going back to the roots. And I played, I'm like, man, did you guys play the other games? There's no roots here. There's none of this makes sense. They got rid of the 2-minute run. I'm like, what? Did you play the other ones? This doesn't even fucking make sense. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 was a little bit more open where you go in these big maps and kind of take missions from people. And this is more similar to that, except the maps aren't big. And there's no things going on in the level. There's no cars driving around or people NPCs or anything. It's just bare, flat, empty land. And I'm like, all right, I can deal with that if the gameplay is right. The gameplay feels like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD that came out like a couple years ago, which was also made by Robomoto. And it's close, but it's not right. This doesn't feel like Tony Hawk 3 or 4 or 2. This feels closer to 1. And like that's like not a good sign. You know, like that's a super fucking old game. And HD, I kind of, looked past its problems because I was like, it's Tony Hawk. At least You're
getting a Tony Hawk.
I'm getting a Tony Hawk that I haven't had forever. It looks fine for a downloadable PS3 game. Like, whatever. It has the classic levels. It was a semi remix of 1 and 2 together. I'm like, cool. I'm having 3 eventually with the DLC. I'm having fun with this. And I had a lot of fun with it. I played the shit out of it and like loved it. This one takes away all the good things about that one and keeps all the bad stuff and then adds worse stuff. You've all seen by now probably the glitch videos.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome stuff.
And like, all that stuff.
Falling through the world.
And all the weird physics and shit. Now, to be fair, Tony Hawk games have always had really weird bail physics and like weird shit happens and you go through a wall and like whatever. That shit always happened. But there's always an amazing solid game behind that.
Right.
So
then you overlook those flaws.
Yeah. I need to spend some more time with this game to really see if there is that solid game there. But mechanically, there's just some problems with this shit. Like they added a new function where if you hit triangle, you instantly slam down, like your gravity just goes up, so you can like get onto rails faster or whatever. And when I first saw that, I was like, all right, cool. That's a gameplay mechanic that I can see helping for combos and like actually being good. But they said it's the triangle button, which is also your grind button. So that means that whenever you're near a rail, it does that thing where it's not sure if you're trying to grind or trying to fucking slam. Yeah. So you'll just fucking slam to the floor and your combo's done. And it's like, well, and if that was like a one-off thing, I'd be like, all right, whatever. That happened to me consistently in the little I was playing. So I'm like, well, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
They changed this to reverts R1. You can change the controls, so that's not that big of a deal. But it's like, they're just fucking with shit. The great thing about it, and people are hating on this, but I think that they're just being assholes just to be assholes. The soundtrack's awesome. Playing through it, I'm like, it does feel like a Tony Hawk
We got
game.
Good Charlotte in there?
Like, Good Charlotte's not there. But
Blink 182.
Playing through it, it does remind me of being a little kid. It feels like Tony Hawk.
Wiz Khalifa.
It just looks like a Tony Hawk game that... It looks like the HD version did, but the HD version was a fucking $10 downloadable title on PS3. This is a $60 boxed retail game.
I thought it was just to download this game, and then I saw people on Facebook, the Kind of Funny Facebook group with photos of it. I was like, what the hell? Like, really? Like, whoa. I did not realize that was happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so to your question of, like, what are signs games are bad? Like, we've talked about this a lot. So, I mean, some of it I'm sure will be, but, like, the first, of course, is when, like, no one is getting copies of this game. The gaming press, enthusiast press has been vocal about the fact that, heads up, none of us have this. We're not getting this. Activision isn't giving it out. And that's usually, for 90% of the time, troubled waters. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Very
Something bad is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a bad sign. Also a bad sign when your game is smaller than the day one patch, which is what is the case with the game itself is like 5 gigs. The patch is 7 gigs, something like that. It's a terrible sign for your game.
So I think that's a terrible sign, but I also think that's being a little blown out of proportion. Like, to me, the sizes and numbers and stuff, I think the internet just likes to get upset about. None of that fucking matters if the shit's there. Like, who cares how big the patch is? The day one patches it's a normal thing. It's not good, but I don't think that's a sign.
What's the point of the fucking disc?
Yeah, I don't agree with you at all.
I'm totally with that, but I'm just saying, like, in the modern day of how games work, like, I don't think that the sizes of the install files matter.
I do. I think that it matters a great deal when the patch that fixes the game is bigger than the game. I think that's absolutely relevant. I think that's a totally salient thing for people to be upset about, but I understand if some people don't.
Or to be a sign of trouble.
Yeah, like, so the game went gold early, and it clearly wasn't ready, and it's not uncommon. Day one patches are everywhere now, and that's fine. Even great games get day one patches. But the day one patches are not 7 gigabytes.
Well, so
and they're not.
My thing is, I think the size doesn't matter. But it's more of a thing with Tony Hawk specifically. You can't play the game without the patch. Like the on disc thing is only like the tutorial and like a free skate mode or whatever. So that's bullshit. Like that, there is a definite problem with the way this game was released. But I don't think the size is necessarily the problem.
Yeah, I don't agree. I think it's just that's weird when you're releasing a batch of data that is bigger than the game. Bigger than the game to fix the game or to add what is supposed to be in the game because they had to reach a certain certification or QA deadline.
Yeah, go gold way before.
I think that's weird and that's uncommon. There are good games that have bigger patches, like Killzone Mercenary had a huge patch. that's a good game. So it's not always that case. But that was when I read that, I was like, that's really strange. The other thing that's weird about it is just generally, I think that this might have been. I'm interested to see the scores. Everyone seems to hate this fucking game. So this seemed to be a game where I'm like, I don't understand why you're even releasing this. You know, like,
and I'm right there with you, man.
It's not. They're not. Activision's not a small publisher, the biggest publisher in the world. They can afford to make good games. They typically do make good games, which is one of the things that I think is weird. I don't like Prototype, for instance, but those games worked and they were fine, and people did like them. It's weird. They don't often release a game that I think is going to settle in the bad territory based on what I've heard about the game from a lot of different sources. It just seemed to be a game that was just, they should have just been like, and they shouldn't have identified that now. They should have in the summer maybe been like, this game is not ready.
They knew. That's the thing you're talking about. Another sign is like, why were these trailers so bad? Trailers are when you're supposed to be using vertical slices and all that stuff to show a game that is not what you're going to get. You know what I mean? Why did they change the art style so late to be this cel-shaded stuff?
So late.
Why did it seem like they've been hiding this game forever? They have, you know what I mean? Like, it's a Tony Hawk game, and like it got announced by the fucking chef putting out a goddamn Instagram post when he set up the event.
So
you know what I mean?
it first leaks from an Instagram post of some random person that shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Then it gets formally announced at E3 during Jeff Keighley's YouTube stream during all the other press conferences.
Right.
So everybody didn't even know it actually happened.
Yeah.
Like me being a huge Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fan couldn't immediately find a trailer at E3. Like I remember I had to look for it and search through the whole fucking live stream to be able to see it. I'm like, that's a problem. Then the trailer that they showed was like 2 minutes long, and 1 minute and 30 seconds of it was developers talking about, it's Tony Hawk, man. It's coming back, man. It's gonna be great. We're going back to the classics. We're doing all the things you love. And then it's like you see maybe 3 seconds of gameplay, and the rest of the gameplay is on a computer screen in the back.
Right.
And even that didn't look good.
And that's one of the big things too, is like show don't tell.
Yeah.
When it's just like, you know what I mean? Like there's a time for that. A great time, right, was not what it would have been E3 2014 EA's press conference of, hey, we're working on Mass Effect. We have a new Mass Effect coming. We ain't ready to show you anything about it. Hey, we're working on Battlefront. Here's some, concept art that we're doing with speeders and stuff. We're not ready to show. You know what I mean? And those games were, it turns out, a year and a half away for Battlefront and two for Mass Effect probably, if not more. And whereas like when you're hearing like this game comes out this year and we're not showing you anything, that's bad.
Yeah.
And this goes back to again on how you do it and how I knew Persona 5 wasn't coming out. Where was the information on this game? It's not suddenly going to pop up, and Persona is going to be an awesome game. So that's why it was like, well, this game's actually not coming out. Whereas Tony Hawk, they're like, all right, yeah, we're going. You're like, I guess they're probably going.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird that they did release this game and that they are just pretending it's not bad. I don't even know. Like it's shocking to me that they can do this and that they would do this and that it makes any sense. Like had they known that it's going to be bad, and if they were fucking around with it, like, oh, the physics are horrible, none of this makes sense, the bales look funny, all the characters look dead, even with the new art style, things are just fucking stoic and weird. Like weird to a point that it's like the PS1 Tony Hawk 1 didn't even look this weird. That looked like something. This just looks like, who the fuck approved this? Yeah,
I mean, just based on what I've seen, I mean, again, I haven't played it, so I don't want to. Maybe I'd love it if I played it. I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions. I'm just seeing people kind of go off on this game. The people have been skeptical of this game for a long time, and I think that Activision's calculus might be that like this game might not. Neversoft doesn't exist anymore. This is a smaller studio that doesn't really do anything. It's probably cheap to make for them to make this game, and their calculus is probably like, we can probably sell a few 100,000 of these just based on them being on the store shelf, and reviews are not going to matter, and people aren't going to see them, and they might have buyer's remorse, but they're not. That's the thing, is that big game publishers aren't stupid, and in fact, I would say the bigger the game publisher, the less stupid they are. So Activision knew full well that this game wasn't good. They and to reiterate, because we said this before, publishers get mock reviews. Publishers pay lots of money to like ex-critics and people in the industry to review their games early. And then be like, what do you think this game's going to be? Write us a review based on what you think this is going to be. And that every game gets those, multiple ones. So I think that it's just there's got to be some sort of financial calculus behind it. The thing is that this is going to have long-term ramifications on Tony Hawk. And unlike Rock Band, which I think is ready to come back and is going to come back, I'm not sure how it's going to do, there's always going to be space for a good skate game, and I think they're fucking themselves. And what they're really doing is giving EA a way to come back in with Skate.
Up for Skate to
they are absolutely fucking teeing it up, and I bet you Skate is in development. So like, EA's probably looking at this being like, excellent.
Yeah.
You know, now we can come back at EA conference and E3 next year and be like, we
Skate 4.
take a little slam at your publisher in a very cursory way. We know you guys are waiting for a real skateboarding game. We have a skateboarding game, and there's it's a fucking meatball down the plate for these guys to just fucking
makes
hammer.
Me so hungry every time we see it.
It's interesting to me though, because looking at this and how much of a disaster it is, and the fact that they're still putting it out, my first gut reaction is, are they targeting the streamers and the Let's Play people that are gonna like just do dumb physics
Great
shit
question.
with this game?
Great,
and like
the first thing I saw Ray last night, Brown Man on Twitch, they're playing it, right? And I popped in and I watched for a while, and he's just like, this is and it's like,
it's terrible in that way though, you know. And it's like, that's weird. If that's what they're doing, it's like, man, why'd you have to do that with Tony Hawk? Like, you could have just fucking put out.
I think that's giving them too much credit.
Me too.
Oh, I think you get to the point of like, are we going to cancel this game or not? No, we're not going to cancel it because we will ship or sell through or whatever 1,000 copies, which will get enough to make back the money we put into it, or at least some of the money we put into it.
Yeah, but it's just, that's the weird thing, and that's why guys really, or studios and publishers really need to worry about their IP and their catalog, because this will have ramifications. Bad games always do injure the perception of future games out of that franchise. If they're bad, it just always goes that way.
But maybe they were done with this.
I mean, that's what sucks.
I hope not.
That's what sucks to me, is that this is it. This is my last chance at getting a Tony Hawk game, the one that I want. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, do you know how excited? I mean, you guys know how excited I was about this being announced.
You want to shut up
like,
about it?
That's insane that they're going back to the original naming scheme. Like, that says something. And this game does not say that. This game is just, it should have been everything. Gameplay, man. It's like, here's my thing. It is still fun, and like, it is still fun to play, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm gonna beat the hell out of this game. Well, it is. Like, that's the thing. It's Tony Hawk, man. Like, it looks dumb. There's weird branding everywhere. Like,
you're getting annoyed with your grind slams. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Is like, yeah, you have to work around it, but the game is there. It is fun. It's still Tony Hawk. I still enjoy it and skating around doing all this dumb stuff. But there's so much dumb little things for somebody that actually really enjoys the Tony Hawk gameplay and is good at it. Like, the wall rides are just wrong. To wall ride in this game, Colin, you know how before you'd go against it and like go up on the side? You need to go straight into the wall, jump at it, and then you wall ride. Yeah, that makes fucking sense.
This is the thing about they just didn't massage this game right. Wrong developer, wrong amount of money, wrong premise, maybe the wrong name. It seems to me that if Activision again has the money to spend money on making the game properly, and since the home studio doesn't exist anymore for this series, they were making Call of Duty stuff, and they never saw it even exist anymore. Or if they do, they just disbanded them into and folded them into like Raven and other studios that Activision owns. It's just frustrating that it's like, I just think you have to take better care. It's like giving a game like Uncharted to, I don't know, fucking CyberConnect or something. It's like, all right, you guys can do this, right? And it's like, maybe they're just not up to the task. I don't know. I don't know these guys' history or whatever, but it just seems like this is a game that has a legacy and it needs to be treated better. If you're going to go mainline, which they did with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
and also being retail,
I don't think this is going to be the end of Tony Hawk, but I do think that this is going to have bad perception issues, and this is a weird move for Activision. And I cannot remember an Activision game that was released that seems like it's going to be outright bad since Declassified, and I don't know that they even published that game. I think Sony might even publish that game. So. It just seems weird. It's like a weird thing. Like, you don't see Ubisoft or Activision or EA releasing games that are like
terrible,
bad.
Yeah.
Like, so they're not dumb. They know what they're doing. They
knew what this was.
They clearly have a plan. I don't know if it's going to pan out for them or not. I'm kind of curious to play. And again, I want to reiterate, this is all conjecture. I have not played the game. I am just going through like NeoGAF threads and looking at trailers, and just for months, everyone's been being like, this game looks all fucked up, And Activision's certainly holding on the review copies and not sending them out to anyone until the game's launched. It's like, that's what we were talking about on Colin and Greg Live today. That happens once in a blue moon to a good or great game when they're really trying to hide something.
Hide like a story spoiler or
they
game
just
mode.
Straight don't trust you. There are certain publishers that do that. But when Greg said 9 out of 10 times, I'd say 95 out of 100 times. I'd say even more than that. When a game is delivered or you don't get a copy of it before the day comes out, like and you're in the enthusiast press, it's bad.
Before we move on, is there any other, what are other signs besides that? I mean, you guys have a lot of experience when it comes to dealing with this stuff. And
I think we've laid a lot out, right?
Developer is the big one, I think, personally.
Sure, you can tell by somebody's history. You know what I mean?
Again, these aren't telltale, like, this game's bad because of this developer. It's just saying, like, it's, like Lady Liberty with her fucking blindfold on, and you give her a scale, and it's like, knowing what you know, these guys developed the game, put it on the scale, and it, like, tips it a little bit or whatever. And it's like, this is the release window, and maybe it tips it a little bit more, and this is when we got the game, and this tips it a little bit more one way or the other.
Where is the trailer? Why haven't you seen this? Why, you know what I mean? Like, so many of these games are, so many games are so anxious to get in front of you. You know what I mean? That's how it is. That's what PR's job is. You know what I mean? Like, there weren't many reviews for Lego Dimensions early, right? But there was a stream on our channel the week before. It had shown up on live shows and been played extensively. You knew it was happening. There had been events for it at Comic-Con and other things. And I'm just using that as an example right now. But that's how a PR rollout goes for something, right? You see these things pop up, and Tony Hawk was a ghost, right? Like when on our GameSpot show, like it was Tony Hawk who came by, which was awesome. Let's talk to Tony Hawk for a while, but it was like he didn't have like demos to show. He wasn't playing.
I mean,
it
even
live.
then, it's like playing Tony Hawk. We've been to a whole bunch of different events and stuff, and I don't think Tony Hawk was ever playable. I might be wrong about this, but I don't think it was ever playable on the show floor for the public.
Right?
Like,
was it at GameStop? I thought we walked by one at the GameStop Expo.
You're right. It was. Yeah. But because I know that it was playable at some point. Like I was invited to play it at different points, but it wasn't at E3 on the show floor.
Sure.
And at Comic-Con, it wasn't on the show floor either. So I mean, those are definitely signs too.
Right.
Playable for the public at events where it's playable for other people.
Yeah, there are signs. It's just the thing is that again the Lady Liberty kind of, or the Justice, not Liberty, Justice. Said Liberty before. It's not true. It's Justice.
She just knows how to hold the torch.
It's just the scale can be out of whack. Like Wolfenstein, for instance, the New Order being made by Machine Games. Like who the fuck are they? So like you drop that into the category of like I don't know, but it actually ends up being a fucking awesome.
And remember
game.
that was a game that they didn't hide. Hey, I remember showing up to my PAX. I'm like, all right, the demo's gonna take 3 hours. You're like, what?
Yeah.
No, but then you sat down, you played it. Like, oh, the game's great. No wonder they want me to play it for so long. You know what I mean? Like, they're not afraid to talk about it.
And I will say, to reiterate, although it doesn't answer the question about good or bad, is that this is why I hated previews, and this is why I hated previewing games a lot, and this is why I think previews are largely useless, because even when a game is bad, like The Order 1886, for instance, they figure out ways, especially closer to launch, to jostle you a little bit. They like Sony actually had done this to us, and they're not doing anything to us. They're putting out their game, and we kind of interpret
you the best part.
Exactly. Beyond Two Souls was a good example. Like we were really dubious of this game. I went and played it right before it came out, and they showed us a really cool sequence, the wood sequence when they're running away from the cops. I'm like, this is really cool. Game ended up not being very good. The Order 1886 was super dubious about it. They show us the Zeppelin sequence, which is maybe the best part of the game. I was like, okay, maybe there's promise.
Yeah, they've turned it around, right?
Exactly. And Knack again, like Knack is a really great example because Knack is like I played Knack at E3. I don't think I wrote anything about it at E3, but I was like, oh, this is actually coming together. Like this game, I think is going to be fun. Knack was one of those games where like I remember when people were playing it before it came out, and they're like, this game's bad, and I'm like, really?
I didn't like it.
I was like, I could understand it not being good, but there was nothing about what I had seen to indicate that it was going to be bad. And so I guess what I'm saying is that like the proof's ultimately in the pudding. It's only when you get the full experience of the full game do you have any idea how the game really is. And that's why previewing to me was always a matter of like I want to be honest and brutal when I need to and give it praise when I need to, but it was all about that balance because it's like I don't really know.
Yeah.
You know, this is my interpretation of what I've been shown from this vertical slice, as opposed to reviewing the entire game where you get the whole package. And that's why I think like people just need to be a little more wary of previews. Not because people are writing previews that are not honest, but because previews are just based on what they want you to see. Yeah. And it always works to the game's benefit.
And that's what was alarming about Tony Hawk. There was nothing they wanted us to see.
Yeah. Lil Wayne. They wanted us to see Lil Wayne.
I don't know.
He's a playable skater in the game. He's a famous skateboarder.
Do they have 311 in the game?
311's not in the game. No.
311
Sweet Tooth is, though.
Weedus.
So that's great.
Wait, Sweet Tooth, Twisted Metal character?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And Ratchet and Sackboy.
The PlayStation exclusives?
Version.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got Master Chief in the other one?
No. They got someone else. I don't know. There's some weird robot
Major
thing
Nelson?
I saw. No. I don't even know, Greg.
Vector Man.
I don't even. Vector Man? No. It does kind of actually look like
Dreamcast
Vector Man.
exclusive.
Yeah. Which is funny you say that because Tony Hawk 2 on Dreamcast was like the best version of that game.
I played them on PS1.
Me too. But the Dreamcast one was fantastic. This topic
lit.
brought to you by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd? Then Loot Crate's the subscription box for you. Loot Crate's a subscription box service with $40 worth of geek, gamer, and pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on any new subscription. Every month there's a different theme, which are all inspired by classic movie and video game releases, as well as pulling from pop culture franchises. This month's theme is time, and quite appropriately, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. And the timeless appeal of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and the timey-wimey charm of Doctor Who. Basically, Loot Crate's like a friend who knows what you love and surprises you with an awesome present every month. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate. And then it's over. You can't get it anymore.
Jack.
Go to lootcrate.com/KFGames, enter code KFGames to save $3 on your new subscription today. Final topic of the day, as always, brought to you by the Kind of Funny forums.
Kind of Funny forum hype.
If you have a topic you want us to discuss on this beautiful, beautiful show, go to kindoffunny.com/Gamescast topic. Leave a post, and we'll get to it, just like we did for Jalapeno.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what he's doing there. No,
It was all right.
I mean, I wasn't excited.
I actually really, really, really enjoyed this question. If you had to estimate how much money would you say you've spent on games, consoles, and DLC, how much would it be? Oh my
Are we
God.
counting what our parents spent on us?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. In college, I remember getting interviewed for a girl who was working on in one of her journalism
Interviewed
classes.
for a girl?
Getting interviewed by a girl is what I meant to say.
Oh,
Sorry
got
if I didn't. Who was in a journalism class my freshman year, and she knew I was big into video games. And it was, she asked me, like, what all I had owned. And I ran her through all the systems, not every game, obviously. And she's like, does it ever boggle your mind to think about how much money you spent? And I was like, not until right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, now I have no idea. I mean...
I'm going to use my calculator here.
Okay. That's
Because I
texting.
remember I had this conversation back with my friends in high school where we'd stop, and like this was towards the tail end of like the Xbox
Yeah.
generation. I remember looking at all my Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2 games. So this is just modern, that generation.
Sure.
Looking at all of them, being like, all right, $50, $50,
Yeah,
$50,
yeah.
$50. You add it up, you're like,
It adds up so
oh
quickly,
my God,
right?
this is like thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I don't have thousands of dollars. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know? And there's always the things where, you got things free or you traded.
Exactly. And that
borrowed
last
or-
night I was digging through. Colin introduced a new segment on PS I Love You. That's a first PlayStation game. And so I was digging through my trophy list last night and just the scroll and the scroll and the scroll and to try to get to the bottom where it all starts with Super Stardust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you get there, it's just like, I didn't pay for all those games, obviously. I was working in the industry, but it's just like, Lord Almighty, there were so many just there. PS3 on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is it's tough because from 2007 to now, I mean, just frankly, I mean, we've not paid for a blind share of our games.
Yeah.
So the game spending has precipitously gone down since I've gone out of college. I'd say that on average, I was spending between console and gaming, including from NES. So NES, SNES, the PlayStation era, which would include N64 and maybe like Dreamcast
And the
later
Sega
on.
Saturn.
And I didn't own a Saturn at that,
You lucky.
during that,
You lucky
that era.
bastard.
And then GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and then putting in like DS, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy. It's got to be. I mean, I have a lot of games on some of those systems. It's got to be like something like absurd, like $25,000 probably. So I mean, I think it's got to be even more than that.
I think it's more than that for you. Like knowing how many games you have, knowing how many games I have, and only imagining how many you have on all the old systems, and in addition to how much you must have, because you're older than me, so you were making money during like the PS2 generation.
Yeah, I
wasn't.
had a job the entire PS2 generation.
Yeah, so it's like you must have been buying things left and fucking right.
I used to buy so many games I didn't even open half of them. So I mean, that was the thing is that I would make like $250 a week after taxes or whatever in high school, and then I would just buy like 4 games. Like I would literally buy like 4 games a week for years. Like I had no intention of playing half these games. I remember buying like Red Faction and being like, I don't even know why I bought
Red
this.
Faction was great.
But I was like, why did I even buy this? Like I remember being like so desperate for PS2 games. I was like, why did I buy Red Faction again? It was because that cute girl at fucking Planet Comics. But I remember
she always gets.
But I had like all these Dreamcast games. I remember getting, even after Dreamcast was canceled or like discontinued in 2001, early 2001, I remember getting like the Sega Smash Pack, and I would just buy anything. So like PS1, N64, PS2, Dreamcast, Xbox, GameCube, that was when I spent a lot of money. I have a lot of games on those systems, especially GameCube and PS2 and PS1. N64, I probably had like 20 games.
They're expensive though.
Yeah, maybe a few, maybe 15, maybe no more than that probably. And then PS1, I feel like I had a lot of games on PS1, like dozens of games on PS1 for sure. PS2, I probably had dozens of games. I probably had like 30 GameCube games and 10 Xbox games or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to say. The thing is that I have the biggest collection I have is PS3. I have over 100 retail PS3 games. But I don't know. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, initially, I don't know that I paid for any more than a few of those, and I think you're probably the same.
Oh yeah,
right?
same way. Yeah, that's the thing out there of why that collection's so vast and into PS4 now too. Just in the fact of like, eventually IGN changed their policy of like you couldn't trade in games anymore while we were there, and this is early, what, like 2008 when we were there. I don't remember you when when Hillary swithed the policy, he's like, don't trade anymore. And so, like, that's why I just have all these PS3 games. So, yeah, like...
You just weren't allowed to trade it.
Right. There was always this... when I first got to IGN, coming out of journalism school, like, it was the Wild West in terms of, like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. And, like, as the industry grew up, ethics became a real thing. And everybody's like, this is... Eventually, enough people were awake to the fact of, like, this is weird that we're getting games for review or just... Because it was like... It used in the old days when companies had money to burn, it would be like, hey... Everyone gets a copy of game, whatever it is. And so, like, one person's reviewing and 30 people have it. And then if, 29 of those people didn't care about it, they could go trade it in or whatever.
Oh, I got you.
So you're trading GameStop or whatever.
Free games you're getting.
Exactly. Yeah, if you bought a game, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And so, like, that's when, like, the collection just started of just like, oh, cool. And now it's the same thing, right? Now everything we get's digital seems. But, like, even with the PS4 and stuff, like...
I mean, digital still costs money, though. That's the...
Sure.
I mean, between... on PS3, retail, and digital... I have to have something approaching 350 games probably.
I mean, my digital collection on all these things is insane. All of these things. You look in there, it's like, oh,
I have
right.
I probably have most of the Vita games released on retail, or
I have Virtual Console on like Wii and Wii U even.
Yeah,
like, those things add up. How many copies of? Just thinking of how much money I put into just the Super Mario Bros. Series is crazy.
Yeah,
I'm just bringing that up though, not to say like these are the amount of games that you bought. It's not, like this is an unrealistic amount of games that no one owns, and that's
Greg
and I are
in
the
so
upper 0.1%, and that's why it's impossible for us to quantify how much money we would spend.
Exactly.
If I look at my shelf about the games I would have bought, it's probably 10% of the games that I actually own. So
exactly.
Maybe a little more than that, like 20%. But so that's why like I'm just saying that to be honest and to say like we are detached from that reality today. But there was a point in time when we were far from being detached from that reality. And I can sympathize with those guys that go out and be like, I don't even have time to play all the games I buy, because I was like, I'm right there with you, man. When I go through my game collection at home every few years, I go through dozens of games that are still wrapped. That are like just I don't even like
that. See, that's crazy.
Like that, that's what I did too. And I like honestly, that was it's a convoluted question because I would venture to say my Genesis collection was my biggest collection I ever had, and that was because my parents would buy them. And I remember I had this little cabinet that had like 3 big shelves, and I was a little kid, of course, so size is all fucked up. But I remember having this thing, and I remember a friend came over, one of my mom's like friends from back in high school. She came over with her kid, and he's like, "Oh, you got a Genesis? You want to play this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What games do you have?" I'm like, "Oh, they're in there." And he opened it up, and he was like, I've never seen this many games. You know what I mean? But we were dumb kids. So then you jump to PS2 generation. And PS2 was the first console I ever bought with my money that was like my thing. And that was definitely the thing of like, I remember, like getting Hitman and Shadow of the Colossus, like in the same trip or whatever. And then I think I finally opened Hitman, popped it. I'm like, I don't really like this, and popped it out. You know what I mean? Like you were just burning through because there were so many fucking games on that thing.
It's just funny how a couple year difference in age will change so much. Like for me, PS2, I was like middle school, so that was I didn't have my own money, so it was like me and my friends would like combine money and pitch in, buy games together and share them and stuff like that. And that was an event. That was like if we bought a PS2 game or GameCube game or Xbox game, that was the game we were playing for the next month.
Right. No, that PS2, like that came out, fall of my senior year. I waited in line the 9 hours to get it with Adam Brown, and then I went to college and I was fucking awesome at college because I had a PS2. Not many people had those yet. You know what I mean? And that was totally the thing of like I am dying for PS2 games.
Yeah, I mean it was bad
that
for a while.
Pilgrimage out to the Columbia Mall to go to GameStop to see what they had, walk down to Slackers and just look through the PS2 catalog on the wall, and I've played most of these or I haven't, and it's like buy something, bring it home, try it, see if it's the Bouncer, Oni. I remember being fucking stoked for Oni. I'm like, yes, a third-person action game, hell yes, this is gonna be great. And then you're playing, it's like, well, it's like Dark Angel.
PS2's launch was a good sign because I still say Vita actually out of all the PlayStation devices had the best launch library, and it was because PS Vita nailed what PS2 didn't, which was PS2 was like, we just have a lot of games. I don't think there's any system that came out that had more launch games than PS2. There were so many launch games that there were studios that made multiple launch games. So it was like, and I remember looking at these games being like, what the fuck is all of this shit? And
Smuggler's Run?
Yeah, Smuggler's Run was fine. Phantom Mission I had. Smuggler's Run was fine. But I remember buying
SSX.
Genji or something like that, and being like, oh my god. And then I like that was when you could still bring games back after you open them, and I bought Summoner, and I was like, oh my god. And then it was like Nobunaga's Ambition or some bullshit game like that. And I was like, Jesus Christ! For me, I remember being like, "What the fuck am I supposed to play?"
I talked myself into Silent Scope at launch, and I came home and cracked that open and took it right back and got mad. And I was like, "All right, this is a much better."
That's what happened to me too. I ended up settling on NHL, where I was like, "All right, fine, I can play NHL. It's fine."
That's so funny.
But this goes back to I met a kid in Vegas when we were there for GameStop. We were talking to him, and he was the kid that during our panel was like, "I have money to burn," and I was like. So should I buy this? And I'm like, save your money. When I was your age, because I was literally his age when the PS2 was out, I was like, I spent all of my money on video games, all of it, and I would leave a little bit to go to like a movie a week and be able to eat at the fucking food court, and then I would have no money until I got paid the next week. And I'm like, that is just stupid. If I could take 90% of the games in those fucking boxes at my mom's beach house and put them back and get that money back, I'd be rich.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that's what got you here, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's playing all those stupidity and that passion. Yeah.
It's true, I guess, but I look back at those days where I was making, $15,000 a year working a lot at like a deli or whatever, and I'm like, man, I really at 16 years old, 17 years old, when I had no expenses, my mom was paying for my cell phone, I didn't have rent or anything like that. I was like, I could have lived like a fucking king. I would have been like totally set, but instead I went like a beeline. Like a fucking heat-seeking missile to Smith Haven Mall on Long Island every week with my stupid fucking friends, and we would spend hundreds of dollars on video games every week. And then I would go home and be like, I don't even know when I'm gonna play these games.
Yeah.
And then I remember having my dad had this like shelf he made me, and it was just lined with games. And I was just like, this is everything I own is right here. I even have like the shitty TV. I'm focused on buying this hardware and these games, and I'm fucking focused and fixated on this. And I remember when I went to college, I had those old DVD shelves that were like these thin but like vertical, and it was just all PS2 games. And I was like, the hell am I doing? And like there came a point in time, it really was like 2004, which is the year I always talk about when I really stopped playing games for a year, where it all collapsed. It wasn't even like it went down, it was just like everything just fucking fell out, and I was like, what am I doing? Like that was the year when I played Resident Evil 4, San Andreas, and that's basically it.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the end of the PS2.
Yeah, and it was a weird like transition era, but the times before, and I was writing for IGN and stuff like that, so I would get games that way. But it was just like that was when I stopped really buying games conspicuously, and I was like, this is dumb. Like, I was obsessed, as we all were in the pre-digital era with, and you still are, with just having things.
Collecting. You want these.
I was like,
there.
well, my PS2 collection certainly can't be complete unless the bouncer's on there. Yeah. And my PS2 collection certainly can't be complete unless I go back and don't get the red version of, the fucking best selling.
Don't get me started, Colin.
And I'm like,
my God.
I hated that shit.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah, ATV, whatever, off-road, whatever, fucking random games that I don't even understand why I ever bought. And I would like stare at my shelf and be like, oh, it's the red version.
That's satisfaction. That's satisfaction of having them there. I remember when I got the N64, and like that was my first Nintendo console that was like real. Like I bought SNES just to play Mario one time, but I had it and like I kept the boxes in pristine condition, and I'd slide them out and take the cartridges out and put them in, and then put them back in and slide them. And I just had this like beautiful thing. I was like the TV. It was the shelf with all of the systems on it, and then on the bottom I had underneath it the games lined up in like a perfect little brick array, all labels facing. Man. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, why was I buying these things? What was I doing with these things?
That's
Mario Party. Obsessed with Mario Party. Cutting a hole in my hand playing Mario Party.
That's why I just bring this up. It's just like, don't do that. Buy the games you want, like, because there are people that just buy games, and you see it on sometimes Facebook group, and I know people like that. They just buy games, and it's great. Buy as many games as you want, but don't do what I used to do, or like a lot of other people maybe still do or used to do, which is like, just save your money, man. Yeah. Like, buy a couple games a month, maybe. You don't need to be buying like all. You don't have time.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Thinking back for me, I never had that money. Like, I went from not having money to, once I had money, being a little bit more, in the industry and stuff. So either I got stuff or I knew what games I was buying. I'm going to buy those games.
Yeah.
I'm buying Smash Bros. It's going to fucking happen, But I've never really been the type to just walk into a GameStop and be like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I'm gonna buy that,
For me, it was like what was the killer to that was the rise, not the killer, I should say, but one of the things that was able to cut off the random buys and purchases and interest just on a box was when like Blockbuster got its shit together and had a great video game section and did
Yeah,
like
I mean,
the
for me, that
unlimited
was what it
pass
was.
and da-da-da. That's when we'd go in and just take a shot
Well,
at
I'm just
anything.
gonna this is when I'm gonna play all these games.
Right.
But I was never gonna pay $50 for a game I had knew nothing about.
Yeah.
But I remember being in middle school and even high school reading these video game magazines and just looking into, after June towards December, looking at that holiday and just being like, fuck, how am I gonna buy Metroid Prime 2 and Need for Speed Underground, whatever, and Tony Hawk and this and that? Like, I'm not gonna have this much money.
Right.
I remember my friends discussing this, like, all right, you get these 3.
Yep.
You get those 4. Like, we'll combine, have your mom buy me this for Christmas, and my mom will buy you that for Christmas.
Damn,
and
your
we'll just
parents were
trade,
buying toys
trade
for
with
each
each
other?
other. Well, when you're close like that.
Nice.
We had a whole scheme going. It was,
Okay,
a
good call, good call.
good system. But, man, yeah, to answer the question is, I think I've spent about $20,000-$25,000 on games. I think you've spent a lot more than that.
Maybe. I don't even want to think about it. It's a
Yeah.
terrible thing to think about. And then there was eBay.
And so you rebought all the games that you traded in for nothing.
I used to really. I'm telling you, man. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I really don't. I have no idea what the fuck I was doing. I was buying Genesis games. I was buying like N64 games.
The collection.
Yeah, like just like games that I was like, I'm never gonna play this game. I'm never. I don't know. I remember a lot of it was sparked because I found like 8 copies of Castlevania Bloodlines at Toys R Us in 2000 that were sealed still on Genesis, and I was like, oh. And I'm
gonna retire.
Yeah, but then like you go on there and I'm just buying it. And it's
buy,
funny, my brother is
buy.
that person now. My brother is in his early 40s, and he's a big gamer and he's a big retro gamer, and he just buys so many fucking games.
See, that's
like
my
nothing
problem,
even
man.
new. Just like he has
I'm
like a
like that too.
Famicom collection and a Super Famicom collection, and NES, SNES, all the Atari, and I'm like, and he tells me, he's like, yeah, I bought blah 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 this weekend. I'm like, really? It's like a lot of games, dude.
That's a lot, dude.
Yeah. So,
but then you see those pictures of those guys that have like the collections and stuff on the wall, and they make them look all nice.
Like, that looks awesome.
And you simultaneously go, "Oh fuck, I hope I never get there." And god damn, he's the coolest dude in the fucking world.
Yeah.
One day, I hope I'm that guy.
yeah, it's like feast or famine with that shit, man.
Yeah. Shawshanker says, "Hey guys, what's your opinion on borrowing or lending video games to friends? I feel kind of dirty when I let a friend borrow a game knowing that they didn't pay money for it and that the company that made the great game didn't get a profit in the situation. However, most of the time I know that my friends wouldn't buy the game otherwise, so I feel like I owe it to the developers to let my friends experience their great work." Which is right. I mean,
I don't think it's a moral conundrum. It's your game.
yeah.
I think I always tell people to buy games new if they can, and to support the publishers and developers if they can, to give them the financial incentive to do good things. But it's your game. It's the same thing as like saying like, the 5 of us are sitting in the living room and one of us is going to buy the movie on Amazon so we can all watch it. Like that's normal, and I think fine. I don't necessarily think there's anything untoward.
But it's
about
super rare too. You know what I mean? Like, I rented Interstellar once, and you and Cheryl watched it the next night. You know what I mean? Like, game wise, doing it, I feel like usually it comes down to, especially if his friends were like my friends in high school, right, that weren't into games, like Poe or whatever. Like, me lending him a game was that he's never gonna buy this game. You know what I mean? It's like, even nowadays, that's the way it be. It's so rare. Somebody, if they're looking through out there and like, oh man, I always wanted to try this. Can I try it? And like, yeah, go ahead. It's old. It's not new. You know what I mean? If it's you're passing around a game that is PS3 or PS4 launch era game, like, well, it's one of those. Then you start having to wait. If you're really worried about the developer, it's more word of mouth, right? Another person has played this. They now know they
know
believe
the
in developer
series
X.
that-
They're gonna tweet about how much fun they're having. It's like, all right.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, I think people experiencing the things that you like is important.
It's
no matter
when
what.
it's not. I'm saying it's not the same as what we're always talking about of walking into GameStop and I'm gonna save the $5 and buy this used copy of the game. Well, no, buy the new copy because you're already there. You're already in your head committed to buy this game. Like, why is it, like here when it's just like, I want to try this. I wouldn't buy it any other way. Well, then, play it. I want you to talk about it and be able to say something about it.
Yeah, the only relevance to it is that I remember the Quantic Dream story from some years ago when David Cage said something, and I think the numbers are right, but they could be off, where he was saying, like, we sold 2 million copies of Heavy Rain, but 3 million trophies, like, trophy lists were activated. So, like, 50% of the people that played the game didn't even, or 33% of the people that played the game didn't even buy it. And I'm like, yeah, that sucks when you look at that and you're the developer and you're like, well, we missed out on 1 million sales because of rentals or borrowing and all that stuff. And I'm like,
yeah, that's just the money. Like,
yeah.
And this sounds like some bullshit Soul Skater shit, but it's like money's one thing, but it's like if you're making this thing that you want people to enjoy, it's like for looking at us as an example, it's like the people on Patreon that are paying for this content, that's fucking amazing and we love that. But then you look at YouTube, it's free, and it's like those numbers are just as valuable because we made something and people are enjoying it.
Sure.
You know? But let's see. We went long on those, so I'm gonna have
My
one
stomach's
more.
making weird noise.
Oh, that was you. I thought it was the dog. I was
Patilla.
like, yeah, damn, the dog's loud.
I also like earlier when he came in sneezed, but
Sneezed.
it was just the most dramatic entrance he's ever made.
My favorite, Portillo's never cuter than when he comes around and just jogs in. Because he jogs and he just looks up at you and he just looks perfect.
It just looks perfect.
You're a perfect dog,
Boxcar
Porty.
182 asks, and I think this is another cool
That's
question.
a Boxcar Racer Blink 182 reference. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Or it's Boxcar Willie, his favorite country musician.
Probably not that one. With movies now having their own shared universe, do you guys think games could jump on this wagon as well?
No.
If so, what game worlds would you love to see collide? It can be reasonable or wishful thinking.
Well, in Lego Dimension, no.
See, I think the thing with this though is I think reasonable is more fun to look at because wishful thinking, it's like, oh, let's just combine whatever the fuck we want. I think it's cool to actually look at the politics of, developers and all that stuff and be like, like the Square Enix universe could be a thing.
Got you.
You know?
Okay. I'm with you now.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry to interrupt. I was
No,
just gonna say I think that I don't like the whole like universe sharing thing. I think it stifles people ultimately. The more you go down that road, the more you're pigeonholed into doing or saying or creating certain things that fit within the realm of this universe and to make sense in this universe. I wish people would just continue to make things that don't touch each other necessarily in terms of like plot or setting or whatever. It's not necessary. Then what does it add? If The Last of Us was a sequel to Uncharted, for instance, like that's just like what does that do for
See, I
either
don't
of
know.
those
I
games?
love it. There's something about that. Like even if it's like I don't need it to be super forced and super like explained and stuff. But if those were in the same universe and it was just little mentions here and there,
They might be.
But like that type of thing, I love that. I think that's really cool. But for them to like really kind of do the Marvel Universe type shit, where it's like every single thing is building up to this next stuff, that might be a little much. And Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, I'm not too familiar with those games.
Yeah, there's like something buried in. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's a reference. Yeah, I can't.
But that's
nail it,
cool.
but
I think that's really cool, and I think like that
It
type
is
of
cool,
thing's
but-
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, Uncharted 3 has a reference to The Last of Us.
If that
so,
would be the
so it does.
that would be awesome if the end of Uncharted 4, like Nate and Elena are like whatever, and it's like credits roll, and there's like one more scene of them flying back to the States, and they look out the window and it's just pandemonium. Like what is happening?
See, that would be fucking great.
Nah.
Well, that'd be a really shitty end for Uncharted, and like
No,
that would
yeah.
feel like you're screwing over Uncharted. That's what it comes down to, right? Like theoretically, and this is before you said reasonable. My first thing I jumped to was why can't Uncharted and Tomb Raider be in the same thing? You know what I mean? Same universe.
No, that'd be cool.
Because it does, and I'm not talking about a full-fledged crossover, but I'm talking about like it would be as simple as like he's paging through notes and he sees Lara Croft's notes, or there's something her climbing spear is embedded in a wall when he's investigating. Like somebody was here not too long, like shit like that. I wouldn't mind, but it can't get to what we just said with Uncharted Last of Us, where the Uncharted thing slams into Last of Us and they both explode. You know what I mean? Like now it's like, oh man, like what a fucking horrible end for Uncharted.
I like some of that. I think it could be cool, but I do think that there needs to be enough of each franchise to be its own thing, and then you can start, just to change shit up. Like Uncharted 4, okay, like we've done enough.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Changing shit up.
I mean, if you want to have it go that way, and when they fly in at the post-credit scene of Uncharted 4, they look out and like people are attacking each other, however you want to start it, right? That's fine, as long as Last of Us 2 is Nathan Drake, whatever it is, 30 years, 20, what is it? How much time's passed? 11, is it?
What?
From the start of Last of Us to when we pick up with Ellie.
Isn't it 20 years?
Is it 20? Yeah. All right, so there you go. So Drake's going to be old. He's going to be sully.
Nah,
He's going to be
I love
old as shit. But
That's
like,
fucking great.
All right,
sold.
now I'm kind of sold on it, too.
Sold.
Now I'm
And
kind of...
the other thing for me that's obvious, and this is already kind of a thing, is Nintendo. Just have like a Nintendo universe.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. Those are just
I feel like they
cartoons.
kind of do though too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they already kind of do with Smash Bros. But like I want to see it more. Like the fact that Mario Kart is only kind of dabbling in it. It's like it should just be Nintendo Kart. All this stuff should just be Nintendo this, Nintendo that, and whatever. But I think this is more of a fun question when it comes to story, and instead of not just like Mario Kart or Smash.
Sure,
Bros.
I mean it's like well, that doesn't count, I guess. I was gonna say Portal and Half-Life, like they're in the same world, like with Black Mesa and stuff. But I mean that's not as like crazy.
But I mean that does count though. I mean it is the same universe.
Sure.
I mean like Square with all their games, and they're talking about doing a movie universe. I guess it fits with the game too, technically. The Western Square.
Yeah.
Japan Square. I mean Final Fantasy is already
See, the problem with games is that
Weird.
not every game, lots of games, they're whatever you're overcoming is the end of the world or something. Like an existence so great, how do you wrap in something else and have that make sense? How do you put somebody else in the Persona universe other than other Persona characters?
Yeah. Well, see, what's interesting about the end of the world stuff is that, I mean, if you beat the game, that means it didn't happen.
Sure.
So,
but like
people could
Drake,
just
but
not
Drake's
know.
a great example. Uncharted is a great example of it happening in an island that in Tomb Raider 2, where these things are happening and no one else would know about
Yeah.
it. But like Dead Rising can't. We can't say Dead Rising's part of this or Resident Evil's part of this. You know what I mean? Like there has to be these little things that are pocketed, and when you're just putting together pocketed things, what are the crossover opportunities?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 39 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. This topic is brought to you by DraftKings. Put your fantasy skills to the test starting Sunday at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site where you can kick off the season by winning $2 million. It's the biggest fantasy football contest ever. $10 million in prizes are up for grabs, including $2 million for first place and $1 million for second. 1 week fantasy means no season-long commitments. It's fantasy football on demand. Play where you want, when you want, with the players that you want. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Hurry to DraftKings.com and use promo code KindOfFunny to play for free for a shot at part of $10 million in Sunday's Millionaire Maker event. And enter Kind of Funny for free entry now, only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
In honor of that DraftKings,
Yeah.
is that why you wore your high school football coach
Little
jacket?
League coach? Yeah. I like this jacket.
I like it too.
like this jacket a
I
lot.
like it. I'm just saying that it's
Haters
that funny.
are going to hate.
They are
All
going
right?
to hate.
I'll see you guys next week, and I love you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Love you.